The Audi brand celebrates its 100th birthday this year. The company was founded by August Horch in Zwickau in July 16th, 1909. He named it Audi after the Latin translation of his own surname. It was one of 4 German automobile manufacturers who joined together in 1932 to form Auto Union, creators of some of the most memorable Grand Prix racing cars of all time, including the rear-engine 16-cylinder Auto Union hill climb cars and Grand Prix racers. You had to be a pretty brave man back in the day when the drivers were fat and the tires were skinny. Of course, since then, Audi has gone on to become synonymous with high-performance sports cars. And leading the marketing effort has been a decade of overall triumph here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. An amazing Audi technology, bulletproof performance, and great driving and strategy has taken them and Mr. Le Mans, Tom Kristensen, to the heights of glory here at Le Mans. They raced here first in 1999 and did not win, but beginning with the turn of the millennium, with the then new R8, they won the overall. An Audi engine powered a Bentley, which was the only non-Audi chassis to win here in the last 10 years. And today it may all come to an end as Peugeot, after 2 years of trying, it appears with just over 3 hours and 52 minutes to go here at Le Mans, may end Audi's decade of triumph. It's been a very difficult day. Let's have a look at one of our Valvoline race recaps. Very unlike Audi to have accidents, especially just a couple of laps into the race. Alex Premat taking the number 3 car off. Alan McNish, a little over exuberant on a restart, damaged the nose on his car. Lucas Luhr, just before darkness descended on Le Mans, put his car into the barriers. Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich could not believe what he was seeing. Though Luhr tried to get the car back in the race, it was not to be. Less than an hour ago, the number 3 car, in which Premat had an early crash, was taken off the road, headed to the famous Dunlop Bridge by Alex Premat once again. There it is from outside the car. And on top of that, they have had an endless number of trips into the garage area to have their filters cleaned out of all the dust and debris that has caused overheating problems on the cars. There are probably lots of very logical, rational reasons why Audi has had so many problems in this 24-hour race in 2009. But they really don't matter. All that matters is the top step of that podium and who gets there a little under 4 hours from right now.
Saw a glimpse there of the Risi car, the second of the Risi GT2 entries, the Krone Racing car, up to 5th right now. So those boys are having another great run. Remember, they finished on the podium here a couple of years ago. So Nick Janssen, Tracy Krone, Eric Vanderpool having another great run here today.
There you see the grooved rain rubber sitting in the garages.
We thought we were going to see some of those in action here today, Bob. The weather forecast was for light drizzle in the early hours of Sunday, and we haven't seen it. Certainly some gray clouds overhead as we speak, but looks like we may see a dry race, which is not typical.
Actually, we're talking about a 60% chance of rain, and we haven't seen anything like that. And you're right, it's not typical. It always rains at Le Mans.
That's right. And it's growing darker by the minute here. This is the edge of the ACO property where the public road meets the private racetrack.
The ACO must own this car or something, Bob. But
I think you're right. That gets more airtime than anything but the moon itself.
Uh-huh.
The old Charouz car from last year, Aston Martin powered Lola, run by the Speedy Racing team.
Now, we theorized if it did rain that the Audi might have the advantage, both in the fact that it would cool the engine,
yep,
and also that the fact that the Peugeots didn't set too well in the rain before. But we might not ever find that out, because it.
Marcel Fastlin drives this car along with the group on a regular basis in the Le Mans series, but he'd already made a commitment with the Corvette group for the Enduros this year, so he moved aside, and Neil Yanni replaced him, and certainly shown a lot of speed here today. He had an off in this very part of the racetrack a couple of hours ago, got away with it.
Car bounces around an awful lot. I didn't notice that. You know, that really has a lot of movement. I don't know if it's very softly sprung, but it really has a substantial amount more movement than any other car out there.
It's the number 11 Team Orica car in the hands of Olivier Panis, one of a number of drivers in this field with Formula One experience, and of course a Frenchman. Speaking of Frenchmen, Nick Manassian, one of the fastest drivers in this year's field, is standing by with Chris Neville.
Well, even though Nick Manassian is one of the pilots of the 7 Peugeot that had problems, Nick, you were one of the captains on this team from the start. Is it some feeling of success to see how well the 8 and the 9 are doing?
Of course, you know, there is obviously a personal deception from yesterday, you know, so early in the race to have a problem, but now we've got another task for us. Our task is to be the experimental car. You know, we're experimenting every single thing we can possibly just to give the knowledge to the other car, so they don't make a mistake, you know, like any strategy, any fuel consumption, any tire wear, any kind you can find out on that car will go in the other car when it's short and it's the right things to do. So yeah, obviously it's good satisfaction. You know, the disappointment is gone for the personal point of view from yesterday, and now I'm really cheering, doing everything I can for Peugeot, you know, to Peugeot to win. This is the goal now, you know. We're a team, a unit. There is a good camaraderie with the team, and I really want us to win now.
Did you and your teammates expect a little bit more speed out of the new R15?
I did expect a little bit more, yeah. I expected a little bit more, but I knew, you know, they work so hard. I mean, they're bloody good at what they do, you know. Technically, this team is fantastic. What was missing is experience. And experience, you can only get it by coming year in, year out. And I think it's coming at maturity now. You know, it's not good to say too much, because the Le Mans is never finished until you've crossed the finish line. So, but you know, the team has improved a lot. So I'm really impressed. Hopefully, he just stay like this for the race now.
Good job.
Thanks.
Well, he talked about they had the technical ability, and I think they learned from their mistakes. And one of the things they did, they really made sure that not only the drivers had a good fitness regimen, but also their mechanics. Over the course of the past 12 months, all of the mechanics, the guys who are in pit lane, had to go through 2 sessions in the gym each week and 3 sessions of pit stop routines. And I think we're seeing that being executed here today, Bob, so much better than the last 2 years.
There was so much wisdom in what you just heard Nick Manassian say. You know, you can be as good as anybody technically, but you need the experience of coming to Le Mans year after year to learn. You also heard the respect he has for that Audi team, who've been so successful here for so long for just that reason. They kept coming back and kept getting better and better. And you also heard that final bit of racer's wisdom that any driver in the pit lane will tell you if he's been to Le Mans before. It isn't over until it's over. And right now we are 3 hours and 45 minutes. And then Nick Manassian will be able to rest easy. Will it be Peugeot? Will it be Audi? Will it be someone else climbing the top step of the podium here at Le Mans? We'll find out in a few hours. Welcome back under gray skies to the 24 hours of Le Mans. A little massage can be a good thing after 19 or so hours of hard labor. Wet weather tires still ready in the pit lanes. Rain in the forecast. We don't know when or whether it will arrive. You see the top brass at Audi discussing what they might do in the final 3 hours and 41 minutes of this race to try to wrest victory from the jaws of defeat at the hands of the Peugeot team. Don't forget, Daytona International Speedway invites you to enter the 2009 Rolex Sports Car Series VIP Sweepstakes. Enter to win a VIP package for the upcoming Brumos 250, including 2 laps in a Daytona prototype on the track, access to the garages, and more. No purchase necessary. Visit speedtv.com, keyword promo for more information. There's the rush sound of the turbo diesels.
Sarrazin on the last lap was 7 seconds faster than the man he is chasing down, Alexander Wurz. So the game isn't over yet, but you have to wonder how much control will the management at Peugeot have over their drivers in these last few hours.
Alan McNish was also 7 seconds faster than the race leader that last lap. McNish dove into the pit lane for fuel only. No tire change, no driver change.
And you know those Audi boys are praying for rain right now.
They need something. They need something to shake it up.
Yeah, that would be probably the only thing I think that would really play into their hand right now that they could use.
Got a Peugeot pit stop coming up here. The 8 car is in from second place. While the pit stop unfolds, let's go to Chris Neville with Olivier Panis.
Well, Olivier just jumped from the 11 car, standing here with a huge Assurnac. Olivier, a lot different than last year. Last year had that DNF about halfway through the race, so you've got to be much more excited about your second running at Le Mans.
Yeah, I mean, for the second time, we really want to finish the race. Last year happened in 24 hours Le Mans, but this year we really focus. All the drivers doing a fantastic job, and the team also. I mean, for the moment we don't do any mistake. Now we need to keep going to the end, and we'll see in the end. But if we finish where we are, I think is really good result for everyone.
I spoke with you Wednesday at Scrutineering, and you were talking about your career in Formula One, but you always looked at sports car racing. What are some of the differences between driving in Formula One compared to competing over here?
Well, I mean, Formula One is, for me, is my life. I love it, but now the endurance I feel is pretty good because it's really a team spirit. We're working together to make a good result, to good success. I mean, it's different mentality, but both of them quite good.
Thank you for your time. Well done.
Really nice guy. He's got a full slate this year, running in the LMS on a full-time basis with Orica, and also running in the French GT Championship in a Corvette. So pretty much jumped in with both feet. These Porsche Spiders, since they showed up at Le Mans for the last 2 years, have really just been dominant. I mean, so often we talk about this class just getting it to the finish, dragging the car over the finish line, and if you could do that, typically you're on the podium or got the win. But now you need to show up with a fast car, because these guys have really laid the gauntlet down in terms of what sort of pace you need to run and win the P2 class.
There are 2 different prototypes battling. The green and white car is the number 31 class pole sitting LMP2 Porsche RS Spider, battling with the Pescarolo Judd. Similar looking cars, but a big horsepower difference.
That Porsche RS Spider is so well developed now after it's been run over in the LMS series. You know, with Penske and so forth, that, like you said, Calvin, before, you'd have 12 cars, only maybe one of them would finish. And nowadays, they're very reliable and very fast.
Looks like the family has arrived for a little Sunday picnic over at the racetrack.
Uh-oh, I'm not sure what he's got aiming at us here.
I thought it was a camera. Now, what is that thing?
So Olivier Cannel on the right, Frank Monteni on the left. Smiles all the way around, looking at the watch. Things are looking good, he's telling him, but
remember, it's Le Mans.
Yeah. Frank's probably trying to say, come on, boss, let us race this thing out. There's no way they can beat us now. And I think the team just needed a little bit more structure, as Nick Manassian said so eloquently. They had the technical expertise, they just needed the experience. And it seems like through spending 2 years here, coming back for your 3rd try, and Olivier Cannel bringing his experience and just massaging everything, leaving no stone unturned. They've really just looked at every aspect of this race and put together a tremendous performance so far.
It's that well-executed game plan we talked about at the beginning of the show, you know, that wins this race, not the outright speed of any one given mark. You know, it's really having the ability to take care of anything that might happen during 24 hours and to get it back on the road and out of pit lane.
They did that with the 8 car. Remember, they changed that left rear corner in about 9 minutes. I mean, last year maybe it would have taken, you know, 5 minutes longer or whatever, but just well rehearsed in anything that could go wrong, because Le Mans will certainly throw you a curveball now and again.
And you think of the teams that have had an impact on this race. Tom Walkinshaw's Jaguars. Certainly Reinhold Jost's teams, 10 victories.
Yeah.
He is what Roger Penske is to the Indianapolis 500. Reinhold Jost is to Le Mans because he knows. Jackie Ickx, a 6-time winner as a driver, took Mazda to victory here at the 24 Hours.
I mean, certainly you need to know the weak parts of your chassis, the weak parts of your organization, and bolster those up, you know, and that's something Peugeot's done. One of the things we've talked about all along is the fact that that car last year picked up a lot of debris in its radiators and always coming in like the Audi is this year. And now they've developed this new little screen mechanism that they have, and they don't have the problem any longer.
I like the way they've been honest in their releases after the various events that they've conducted over the last 2.5 seasons, and they've admitted their mistakes. They know they need to improve in certain areas, and that's kind of refreshing. They don't really hide anything.
Coming up on 3.5 hours remaining in the race.
This was close.
Yeah. Well, over here.
That's that dodgy area there. You know, as you enter the Porsche curves, the GT cars really have to make their intentions known. Otherwise, the faster prototypes are going to do exactly that. They can't get around the outside when you're in the middle of the road, so they have to go to the inside. You turn in, and suddenly there's a problem.
Yeah, you leave them that room to the inside, they're going to take that.
Tom Christensen. All the folks in the Audi garage.
What are these guys doing?
Like there's some confusion or something. We haven't been in this position for years. What do we do? If I know the folks at Audi, what they'll do is go back to the drawing board, figure out how to come back stronger. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Le Mans. This is Alan McNish in the #1 Audi in the pit lane. And it wasn't that many laps ago that he pitted previously, so this is unscheduled. And it looks like it's going back into the garage for another freshening up.
Yeah, just 3 laps ago he was in, Bob, for fuel and tires, so this is certainly unscheduled, but they've been looking at those numbers and realizing they can't push it any further. We would have to assume it's just a continuation of the issues they've had. Justin is down there.
Saw it as quickly as I did. The car came in 1 lap after it went out, or 2 laps after it went out after a scheduled pit stop, and Manish boarded in, and Capello's getting in. So it's very unusual when they go in the garage. They have had a little problem. I was talking with Brad a minute ago, and he was giving me some great insight, and he suddenly went, "We've got an issue, I've got to run." But something that's very, as you're watching the images, I'm sure on the monitors, something he was telling me is the minute that they lost the opportunity in his car to, you know, the #2 car to run for a top podium position, they immediately switched to basically a test program. Wow, you're at Le Mans, you've got real-time conditions, you paid for it, so they have been running aero and electronic and also what else did he say, and different suspension, you know, setup configurations, all to help not only with future development, but also to try and help the #1 car. So it's incredible, isn't it, how this team operates? They do not waste any flesh on the meat on the bone here. But another thing to think about, he actually took the engine out of the car. They took the engine out of the car in the middle of the night. They separated it from the monocoque to put a new pump in because of the injection system. How many teams in the pit lane are capable of that and getting it back out and still having a relatively decent run?
Well, you're spot on there, Justin. I think the Peugeot team have done a similar job with the 7 car and really using that car as the guinea pig in terms of how far can you push the tires, how far can you push your fuel mileage. and just trying to relay all that information across to their front-running cars. And for Audi, this could be the final nail in their coffin. They could not afford any more drama here before the checkered flag this afternoon. Tom Christensen watches.
And now
there's something else going on here, Dorsey. This is not the problem we've been seeing throughout the course of this 24 hours. Is a bigger issue.
Yeah, they changed a couple of electronic things off the side there. Now they're in the back of the car with the hood up and off. So this is not a radiator clean situation.
Serge Saunier there, the Peugeot personnel we've been watching with the stopwatch in his hand. He's got a pretty poker face. I don't see him smile much when we're walking around the paddock. Maybe a victory here today would change that, certainly. But the pressure is on the Lions to really get that win.
Yep, looks like we've got an off and on for that GT1 class Aston Martin. And what have we here? Oh, that would be the same incident.
Yep.
The back of the car wanting to get out in front of the car. Well, as they work hard in the Audi garage, let's hear from Chris Neville with the team manager down at the 81 GT2 pits.
Well, Bob, to raise the money for Team Seattle, they need a good captain because the car has to finish the race, and Mike Gouet has been that captain. Mike, you've got to be really impressed. It was all about finishing. Right now, car just broke into the top 10, and you got some walking wounded in front of you.
Well, it's been a very interesting experience because with 3 rookies and obviously one a hell of a celebrity. It's put some challenges our way, but they've driven beautifully. They really have. They've worked hard. They're absolutely worn out. And Don Kitch is fast asleep at the moment. He never realized it would be as strenuous as this.
So, working with 3 rookies, what are some of the things that you told them they really get to the checkered flag?
Well, it's terribly difficult to explain the magnitude of the event, that just the aura of it all. And they come along thinking, well, I've done this, I've been on the simulator, I could do 408s. And then the reality of it all hits them, and suddenly it's, whoa, what have I got myself into? And we just had to keep them focused and not worry about what other people are doing and just drive their own pace. And they've done a good job. They really have.
Now, looking back many years ago, back to 1985, you had a certain Calvin Fish running for you. Now, we get a kick out of Calvin because he's got some quirks. What were some of the quirky things you saw in his young age?
Well, when Calvin, I first ran him, I think he was the first, he ran with me for the first time when he came to the States, and we were all amazed at his sort of fastidiousness, and he's incredibly neat and tidy. And then we discovered he ironed his socks, and that just brought the house down, and he never lived it down.
All right, so he ironed his socks. Any good stories from the racetrack?
None that I can repeat.
Thank you,
well, great job today, and let's hope you guys see the checker.
Well, my mother used to do it, and I was first time away from home, so I thought everyone ironed their handkerchiefs and ironed their socks and underwear. Oh, dear. Thanks for sharing that, Mike, with the world.
I don't know about you, mate.
Well, we're big on ironing here at Speed. I must say, that's a skill that will take you far with our company.
Dorsey, you don't even know where the washing machine is in your house.
I'm not sure I even own one. I think I do. Where would it typically be? It's not in the garage, I know that.
Next to the dryer.
Yeah, what's going on here now? The old 007 up on the curb.
Thought he was going to be a cone killer, knocking over some of those
trouble
bollards.
with this Ferrari at the back end, left rear. Either has a tire or a wheel problem.
Or both.
Or both.
At the left rear.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think there's any secret in what sort of tires he's running with the livery on the car, but they've been very impressed with these tires. They're really good.
That's a wheel bearing or something. I mean, it's much beyond the tire.
Similar to, remember the other Ferrari, Bouchou had a similar issue with the left rear. And we talked earlier in the event about the wheel nuts on the Ferrari have a much bigger surface area than the Porsches. The Porsches are very tiny wheel nut, which allows them to get that wheel change done very quickly and effectively. But Ferrari did run into some issues a couple of years ago in the American Le Mans Series and went to this bigger nut with a bigger surface area.
Can't really see, Calvin, if the nut's in the center of the wheel. I think it is, which means it could be a a wheel bearing or a hub broken.
Yeah, Brian did that show and tell on the Ferrari rear hub assembly in terms of how the wheel is located on the pegs, the threads.
Yeah, I think this is not a loose wheel, though. I think this is actually a broken suspension.
I was going to say, this being a clockwise circuit, the turns are predominantly right-handers.
Hard to say where he was, too.
So that left rear wheel is taking a lot of load.
Have they pulled the back off that car? It looks like the wing's missing, and I think they pulled the whole back off of it.
Looks like they're working on the top of the motor, Dorsey. Maybe the injection system, or I don't know. It's hard to tell from this angle.
Saw one of the guys in the back tugging on the wing, which is, you know, they split the car that way. You take the back end of it off. I think it's off now.
It's Dindo Capello in the car. Let's go to Justin Bell.
The situation, as far as we can tell, Lucas Luhr told me that they had play, they had movement in the rear suspension somewhere, which at 211 miles an hour must be the equivalent of almost a wheel falling off. But so that's what they're trying to track down, and it is obviously not easy. And when you talk about play, we're not talking about something like on your old lawnmower in the garden, which moves around, as someone sitting at home might think that. You're talking about an infinitesimal amount, but it's enough to set the car off on a vibration. Rear of this car, Lucas actually feels, off the record, that could have been what was, caused his little incident earlier, or quite major incident. So, and he said it. He said one thing goes wrong, it's just like a series of things going wrong, and anyone can handle it. The Audi team can, but they're trying to track down movement that you almost can't feel with your hand. That's not that easy, is it?
Well, any movement at all at the back of the car when you're running 211 miles per hour will get your full-on attention, no question about that. And it is not that easy to find because you can't put the stress with your hand on that part that you will get out on the racetrack.
I'm just amazed at all the crud on that car.
Yeah, they get pretty nasty, don't they?
Wow. Meanwhile, the 007 is closing up rapidly on the aforementioned Audi, which is sitting stationary in the garage. And that's for the third and final spot on the podium. Still a couple of laps down. But as long as Dindo Capello is not moving, then Thomas Enge has a shot in the Aston. We'll be back.
Speed's coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Acura. Acura Advance.
Back at Le Mans, we've got a couple of stories brewing. There is Dindo Capello, who just exited the pits in the #1 Audi and promptly spun it under the Dunlop Bridge harmlessly, but a spin nonetheless. You're on board with him. Oops, and we've got one. This is in replay. That's not. Oh, this was the number
replay.
3. Yeah.
First one that we saw there was Dumas off at Indianapolis, and this is Prema, who had his second big off of the day. But anything but a smooth run for these boys, and I think it definitely has to stem back to the lack of dry running that they've gotten here this month, with no pre-test. Wednesday getting rained out. I think they missed on the setup a little bit. However, I'm not even sure with dry running that they would have encountered these intercooler issues, Dorsey, that they've experienced during the course of the race.
Well, a lot of that they attributed to not having run that pre-test too, which would have cleaned the track up somewhat. They're talking about a real sandy type of mixture of aggregate here that gets up and clogs up those fins in the intercoolers. Doesn't really wash out that well either.
Right, you're right. Once they get clogged up, essentially you're going to be fighting the battle for the rest of the day. But see Dindo there, looks like he's jingling around there, just trying to get some tire temp.
While this is going on, the two Corvettes are nose to tail. Johnny O'Connell came in for fuel only, and he is leading teammate Marcel Fassler, but they are running nose to tail, and Fassler has been all over the back of his senior teammate as the two Corvettes race for that victory in the GT1 class. Let's go to Justin Bell with the boss at Aston Martin.
Well, he's the boss of lots of things, actually, Dave Richards. Watching this race unfold, I don't think it was probably in your ideal textbook the way the start of the race went. It wasn't in the Dave Richards I'm going to win Le Mans textbook with a gasoline engine car, but now it's unfolding this way. Why do you think Audi are having its problems? I know you can't control that, but you watch it unfold, it's very uncharacteristic.
It's a big surprise to us. You know, the Audi, if you put your money on anybody here this weekend, you'd have put it on an Audi. They look to have a lot more downforce than the Peugeot, so I guess if it had rained, they'd have probably been in quite a strong position. But no, they've had an uncharacteristic number of mistakes in their drivers and problems, and the Peugeot, fair dues to them, they've done a lot of work this year and they've improved their car and they're looking strong.
You mentioned drivers. Drivers are really, when they're in the car, they control the show, and they are the strong and the weak point of the equation. What's the message you're giving your guys right now?
We've set target time for them. Thomas is doing 3:35s now, which is a sort of comfortable pace for us. I guess we could drop that off a little bit more if we need to, but it's just hang on in there and see what happens.
And well, we're watching it very closely because we can see something unfolding itself here that we hope is going to be very good for you. Thanks. Back to you guys.
Look at this battle here between the two vets. Johnny O'Connell showing all of his experience in placing the race car, Dorsey, in the right spot on the track so that Fessler has to go the long way around. He's going to make him earn it.
Yeah, he's making Fessler go on the long side and then taking it back away from him when it gets down close to where he's got to turn in, which gives him equal turn-in and apex speeds.
And Johnny got this position by just taking fuel, no tires. So Fessler has newer rubber, newer Michelin tires on the black car as he hounds Johnny O'Connell.
I'd say he's hounding. No doubt about that.
Tough position, though. I mean, for Johnny, he can place the race car, and it's going to be Fessler who has to take the risk, and he doesn't want to screw it up and take both cars out.
No, it doesn't appear that the second car has much of a draft advantage.
No, when he tries to jump out, he suddenly has to tuck back in again.
Yeah, he's not getting any pull at all off the car in front of him to give him more top end. I mean, look at them. They're dead equal coming down here.
The Corvettes are surprised. They didn't have tremendous straightaway speed here this weekend. Topping out at about 180, which is only marginally better than the faster GT2 cars, but certainly they get there a lot quicker. Slightly bigger greenhouse, the silhouette of the car trying to push that car through the air, of course, than the GT2 cars. Look at those cars hustle through those Dunlop curves.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny O'Connell has a lot more experience in this car, so he knows all the tricks. He knows how to play the game, there's no doubt.
And they are worn out. Remember, he and Antonio Garcia really had to take hold of the reins here because Magnussen got sick in the middle of the night and hasn't seen any action for quite some time. So Johnny O'Connell is really working on adrenaline right now.
Meanwhile, let's get more on the 92 Ferrari with Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, I think you can see that the car is in the garage. I think initially you guys were speculating whether that left rear tire had gone down, but when it came to pit lane, that Dunlop was still holding air. It's just, it was really sitting down on that corner, and when they raised it up into the air, the entire corner just kind of fell limp like a broken limb. So the casters went under the car, into the garage. It's been sitting in there for about 2 minutes now, and obviously it's dropped off the podium, that third position, and I think it's kind of slowly sliding back and possibly in the verge of going out of the top 5. So the team doing everything they can, replacing all the suspension in that left rear corner and hopefully trying to get this car back out on the racetrack.
Yeah, that definitely looked like suspension failure to me. That tire was still on the rim real well, but the rim wasn't connected to the suspension any longer.
And we talked about the fact that there were twice as many Ferraris 10 to Porsches 5 in the GT2 battle here this weekend, but you know, when we look at the results right now, we've got Ferrari sitting first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and no Porsche in sight. So I think Porsche have got to get their work done here in preparation for this race. They don't seem to put a lot of the factory drivers in last year. There's more this year, but here's a run that Fessler was looking for. Does he have the track position to take it away from Johnny O'Connell?
I think he will this time. He actually got a really good run with the car that passed Johnny, the P2 car there, and there he's made the pass. And he's on fresher tires too, Calvin, like you said.
Yeah, once he gets in front here, I mean, Johnny's going to have to hang on. Otherwise, Fessler could have a slightly stronger car with the better rubber on board right now. And that is tough. That is tough to take when you have been holding the lead for 20 odd hours, and then suddenly you see anyone, let alone your teammates, suddenly inch by you and take that lead away, and you think about the big prize at the end of the day maybe not going in your direction. Johnny O'Connell will be digging deep.
Particularly since it would be his 4th and would be a record.
I'm sure Danny Binks will be on that radio saying, just hang in there. We'll work some magic here when you hit pit lane. Get some fresh rubber on that car. Have to assume that Antonio Garcia will see some action unless Magnussen is fit again, but this is a double right now for Johnny O.
And surprisingly for Danny Binks, he's yet to win. He's always been here with Team Corvette, but his car has not been the one that's won. So he'd love to get his first and last for the C6.
Well, they issue hourly rundowns of the running order here at Le Mans. And through 19 hours of this race, it was the number 63 Corvette leading GT1. But all that has changed now.
He's hanging in there, though. Worked traffic very nicely there through Indianapolis and up to Arnage, so he keeps tabs on Fessler.
There's a replay of the pass.
Yeah, that was just a perfect setup coming onto the straightaway. The 23 car had passed both of them and broke the momentum just enough.
The newest member of the team passing one of the original drivers at Corvette Racing. Marcel Fassler around Johnny O'Connell. We've got another break coming up. We'll see what happens here at Le Mans, coming up on 3 hours remaining at the 77th running. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back live at Le Mans. Sun climbing in the sky. About 3 hours to determine who will mount the podium. Marco Werner at the back of the Audi garage on the left. He's in his street clothes. His work is done here. Sebastian Bourdais told us earlier he will climb into the second place Peugeot, relieving Stefan Sarrazin, who put that car on pole what seems like a week ago.
It looks like he's about ready to do that too.
Yeah. See that seat insert looked really, really thin, but that's how marginal a difference in seat doors he can make. I mean, if you're just stretching just a little bit over the course of a 24-hour race where, you know, if you're doing 8-10 hours as one of the drivers, you know, if you're not quite right in the car, it can really have an effect in terms of the physical conditioning during the course of this 24-hour race.
Yeah, especially with the G-forces these cars are capable of. You know, you end up getting cramps, you know, leg cramps or back cramps, or anything you're using your muscle to hold yourself in that car is going to fail.
Needs to fit you like a glove, and there's always a little bit of compromise, but the team management try and chooses drivers that are relatively the same size, and then they use those little seat inserts which can be changed during the course of the pit stop to just get you a little bit closer or move you further away.
Get an idea about what a dirty windscreen looks like. Looking out, a lot of oil on that one.
1 minute 53 last time by the stripes. Stefan Sarrazin behind the leader Alexander Wurz with 3 hours and change to go.
Not far behind that Peugeot is the 64 Corvette of Marcel Fassler. I don't see any sign of Johnny O'Connell, and I don't see him indicated as being in the pit lane.
And the Audi was the quickest of all those lap times that time, as Capella ran off a 3:28.8.
They are now 6 laps behind the number 1 Audi, 6 laps behind the 2 Peugeots.
And we said that hours ago that they needed something to happen to make that up. You cannot make that up on the racetrack.
Here comes Anthony Davidson in the 008 Aston Martin Lola, 13th in the overall, 11th in LMP1.
I have to wonder if this is where his future lays. Certainly had some good performances in Grand Prix racing, but it's hard to drop out like he has and get your way back in, Bob, as you've seen many, many times.
And if Aston Martin, in fact, does come to Formula One, he'll be in the, dare I say, the driver's seat, being a part of the company.
Leader is in. Wurz is jumping out. Marc Gené going to do the last stint, it appears. I'm sure he's had his marching orders in terms of what can be achieved here in this last 3 hours. See the refueling being done, and you do see a mechanic inside the cockpit. That will be the driver assist. Essentially, he is doing everything that the co-driver could be doing during the course of this driver change. So it's really confusing for these pit lane officials to really judge exactly what's going on. There you see the white line, the stripe, right down here. That's the line where only 2 at the time mechanics can be working at the same time over that line with one wheel gun.
At this point, the team strategists will be counting backwards from the end of the race to determine when they will make their final stops.
I think they're going to be looking with 3 hours to go. I'd say they need 3 more stops. They're well shy of an hour to on fuel. About 12 laps is what the Peugeot has been doing, so I would think 3 more stops should get them to the checkered flag. And
back in the garage for McNish.
But this is all in replay. This all happened earlier.
It says that, yep, this is when they had that bad.
Right, when they changed the steering wheel. Alan McNish got out. Dindo Capello got in. Meanwhile, down at Peugeot, I mean, you almost think that the boss came over to tell the crew, don't be smiling yet. There's still 3 hours to go in this one. This was the work being done on the Audi. No doubt being watched closely by their rivals from Peugeot.
Thought it looked a lot like the last time it happened.
It's high noon at Le Mans. Bob Varsha, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish with you. Justin Bell, Chris Neville down in the pit lane.
What's left of this?
Right. Sebastian Bourdais climbs into the Peugeot in relief of Stefan Sarrazin.
You talked earlier, Dorsey, about the attributes of closed top versus open top. One of the reasons I spoke to Dr. Ulrich a couple of years ago about, you know, the design of a car and going from the closed top to the open top car, and he said there are just so many things and concerns with a closed cockpit in terms of the windshield, the fogging, the doors that can come loose, the driver change. You can see you got a mechanic literally lying horizontal there trying to assist Sebastian Bourdais, and it's really hard with these Hans devices now to get those seatbelts done up by yourself during these driver changes and to see down there at the buckle area. So you need that assist, and with the Audi boys, they can be literally standing in the cockpit, leaning down in there and helping out the driver who's getting buckled in, whereas the Peugeot in any closed cockpit car is not as easy.
That's what people don't realize is when you have that big full face helmet on and the Hans device, and you even go to look down to look where your belts would be, you can't bend your neck forward, so you can't see down there. You're totally blind. You need someone's help to guide it all together.
And I tell you what, Sebastian Bourdais, after the frustrating season or a couple of seasons that he's had in Formula One, to come here and be in one of the fastest cars and just have a few more issues than the lead car, he'll certainly be frustrated, Bob.
This is our slow motion look at the 4 class leaders. There's Marcel Fassler in the Corvette. And there's the Ricci Ferrari.
These guys have done just a fantastic job.
They have. Going for their 2nd straight victory in class. It is something indeed to win once at Le Mans, but to back it up with another victory the following year, that takes a pretty special group of people.
And that will make that Ferrari a very valuable collector item, because now it is exactly the same chassis that won here last year. And that's why they brought it back out. They were going to retire that car, and then they said, you know what if we could make it win twice in a row?
And Sebring too.
And
well, yeah,
Sebring.
exactly. Is that the same chassis that won at Sebring?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and that is the reason that they did that.
What am I bid?
Yep, that's going to be a valuable collector item right there. Now that we said it, of course, watch what happens.
Crowd building in the grandstand area across from the pits. If you've never seen the conclusion of a 24-hour of Le Mans, when the crowd jams the pit lane to salute the winners, you've got a special treat coming, and it's now less than 3 hours away. Welcome back on board with Marc Gené in the race leading Peugeot. 338 laps complete, a 1-lap lead over local favorite Sebastian Bourdais in the second Peugeot, and then the first of the Audis. In fact, the surviving Audi in the hands of Dindo Capello, now 7 laps down to the race leader. It appears that Audi's long stranglehold on the 24 Hours of Le Mans will be released today. Bright sunshine now, no longer a threat of rain, with coming up on 2 hours and 52 minutes remaining. I hope you're enjoying our exclusive live coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans here on Speed and SpeedTV.com. Shortly after the top of the hour, I'm Bob Varsha with Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish. Let's have a look at our Valvoline race recap, taking you right from the start of the race when Frank Montagny in his Peugeot battled with Alan McNish in the Audi right down into turn 1. Meanwhile, behind them, young Alex Premat of France took one of the Audis off the road into the tire barrier. He would resume the racetrack. On an early pit stop, Pedro Lamy was clobbered by the similar Peugeot, the privateer effort for Henri Pescarolo's team. Another look from onboard Lamy's car. A sharp bang in the tire that really meant the end of that car's race. More problems for Audi. Alan McNish got into the back of another car. Needed to come in to have the nose fixed. Later in hour 5, one of the Aston Martin Lolas, driven by Stuart Hall, clobbered a competitor driving this LMP2 car of Tim Greaves off the racetrack. The stewards decided that was too much. Driver Stuart Hall was banished from the event. The pole-sitting Porsche in the GT2 class, the American Le Mans Series Flying Lizard team, had a raft of problems, eventually dropped out of the race with a crash. Sebastian Bourdais had a taste of the lead before his Peugeot needed to have the left rear wheel replaced. He would resume 9 minutes later, but not quite reach the race lead. He currently runs in second. In hour 7, after the sun had set, but there was still light in the sky, Lucas Luhr spun off the track and destroyed another of the Audis. Alan McNish put up a great fight during the darkness. Stefan Sarrazin all over the back of him, but could not get by the little Scotsman. But what Sarrazin couldn't do, mechanical failure did. Lengthy pit stop for the Audi. Johnny O'Connell, going for his 4th win at Le Mans, had this close shave with an LMP1 car. The Corvette survived well. And this, the scariest moment of all, as Benoit Treluyer crashed his Pescarolo Peugeot, was taken to the hospital, and at last report is in good shape. The car decidedly was not. In hour 19, another heavy accident as Harold Premat crashed his Aston Martin Lola. It's still amazing to watch him climb out of the wreckage of that car. And this was a bit more awkward as young Christian Bakkerud of Denmark lost control of his year-old Audi, trying to get up to speed, and it could have been a lot worse as traffic dodged the slow-moving Audi. Back to young Alex Premat. Off the road at the beginning of the race, off the road again toward the end of the race. There are going to be some interesting meetings at Audi after this event. Hour 21. After a great stint, Alan McNish basically gave up a shot at the race lead with a long pit stop. Meanwhile, on track, the 2 Corvette teammates, Johnny O'Connell and Marcel Fassler, were disputing the lead in the GT1 class. And right now, it is Fassler in the 64 car who has it. At this point in last year's race, they had completed 318 laps, and despite 2 long safety car periods during the night, we are ahead of that pace, although not yet on record pace. Still a torrid race to this point. As you look at the GT2 class Spiker, one and only Dutch supercar in this year's Le Mans event. There you see the order in the GT1 class and in GT2, where Mika Salo and the rest of the Risi Competizione Ferrari team are in position to make it back-to-back victories. There's Lord Paul Drayson, a British Minister of Defense and racing enthusiast, about to complete his first 24 hours of Le Mans. This is the 66 Aston Martin GT1 team. They have had a pretty interesting 24 hours to this point. There's another trick iteration on the refueling, using that boom to take up the slack in the fuel hose. And here's an Aston Martin in the GT2 class. Once again, Aston back at the scene of their first ever victory in this race by Roy Salvadori and American Carroll Shelby in a DBR1 50 years ago this weekend.
The young Brit Johnny Cocker behind the wheel right now. Really a great talent, and Dale White, who's really leading the charge here with Drayson Racing, saying that Johnny really has a lot of the attributes that he saw in young Pat Long at the same stage of his career. So he's pretty high on this boy and thinks he can go a long way in sports car racing. Car looks beautiful on Michelin tires this year. Haven't had those before, and that's really turned their performance around, certainly. Really working hand in hand with ProDrive now. Got Graham Moore from ProDrive working with the team on a full-time basis. The car is based at ProDrive, so it's not a factory car per se, but certainly factory assisted.
Paul Drayson, not the first British lord to compete here at Le Mans. Back in 1949, Luigi Canetti drove all but 20 minutes of his victorious run at the 24 hours at Le Mans. His co-driver for those 20 minutes that Canetti was not in the car, Lord Peter Selsdon of Scotland. A W is a W. The GT2 Ferrari in the pits. Meanwhile, we're going to go to Chris Neville standing by with Olivier Canel, the boss at Peugeot.
Well, so often we talk to Dr. Ulrich from Audi. Well, it's Olivier Canel who runs Peugeot Sport. Olivier, last couple years, the 908 was so quick, but the victory just wasn't in hand. Are you starting to feel like the 908 is going to beat the Audi this year?
Yeah, we wanted to win. Honestly, it's not done. But I think we are in a good way. So the Audi now is 6 laps behind. And I got 2 Peugeot leading. So we just wait the finish. But 3 hours, it's quite long. But we did already 21. So I hope it will go.
I spoke with Nicholas Manassian earlier, and he said the team always had the technical expertise, but just wasn't mature enough the past 2 years. Do you agree with those thoughts?
Yeah, this year we made a perfect race. For the mechanics, the cars, the engineers, quite good team. Everything was perfect.
Well done today.
Thank you.
Early congratulations indeed to the entire Peugeot squad on a well-earned victory, should it eventually come to them. David Hobbs joins us now.
Yeah, slip, twixt, cup and lip, I say.
Exactly, or something like that.
And of course, Sir Henry Birkin, not quite a lord, but Sir Henry Birkin won this race in a Bentley back in, what, 1929?
Oh, I got all my lords and knights and
ladies,
earls and marquises and all that sort of thing.
Dukes. A Duke or two.
We've got just under 2 hours and 45 minutes to go. To put that in perspective, that's the length of the average American Le Mans Series race for cars exactly like the ones we've been watching.
Except
for the last 21 plus hours.
Of those races.
They're not quite as dirty. The exception, of course, being the Petite Le Mans at Road Atlanta coming up this fall. There's Nigel Mansell with son Leo. The Petite Le Mans, 10 hours or 1,000 miles. Let's go to Brian Till.
You talk about the length of American Le Mans Series races, Rolex Sports Car Series races as well, and that brings up a man that we're used to seeing over in the States, Thomas Inga, right now in the 007 car, and I know that the 008 and the 009 have had their problems. You guys having a pretty good run, though.
Well, yeah, I have to knock on the wood, but we're lucky. We've run without any major problems. The only thing what we're doing, we're putting oil and water into the engine, just adding simple stuff, routine pit stops, and we're running like, we just want to finish the race in this position. We know that if we push a little bit harder,
we cannot catch the diesel cars, not even closely. That's just impossible, as you have seen during the race or during qualifying. But on the other hand, to start from P8 and finish higher, we are now higher. It would be a great result. Let's just keep fingers crossed and finish the race without problems.
Thank you very much, Thomas. We'll head down the pit road to Chris Nello.
Yeah, we're ready. Brian, another team we see in the American Le Mans Series is Lord Paul Drayson's Aston Martin team. And Paul, we've been here since 8 o'clock yesterday morning. You got this huge smile on your face. You've got to be proud of this team and your rookie start.
Yeah, really pleased with the way it's all going. Just under 3 hours left, and touch wood, we're going to make it to the end. But I've had a smile throughout this race. Doing my double stint in the night, that was almost spiritual, man. It was just great. I love this place.
When we talked earlier this week, you said when the team moved into the same industrial park as ProDrive, it really brought this team to a new level.
Yeah, so we're the development team for the GT2 Vantage, and working just yards away from the main Aston Martin racing team really accelerated our development, and we've seen it paying off. The car's been really strong. It feels as good now as it did when we started, so I'm really pleased with the way it's going. I'm extremely happy. The family's all here with me, and it's without doubt, it's the best race in the world.
Well, great job, and we hope to see you at the Checker.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Paul Drayson, Minister of Science and Innovation, and works in the defense ministry as well.
By the look of things,
And
about 10 kids
procreation,
there.
yes. Well put. Pip hip and all that.
Pip hip, jolly good show.
Jolly good show, yes. Stiff upper lip will get you there every time. We'll be back to Le Mans.
Speed's coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Acura. Acura Advance.
Back at Le Mans, coming up on 2.5 hours remaining in the 77th running. With Dorsey Schrader and David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. The order is Marc Genet and Sebastian Bourdais in the two Peugeots. Ronaldo Capello in the Audi runs third. Stefan Mucke in the first of the Aston Martin Lolas is in fourth. Nicolas Lapierre in the Oreca AIM in fifth. LMP1 category cars hold positions 1 through 9. Then the first of the LMP2 cars. The pole-sitting Porsche RS Spyder now being driven by Kaspar Elgaard. Then another LMP1 car. Then the second Porsche Spyder in the field. The Navigo team car runs in 12th. 2 spots further back, the first of the GT1 cars. Antonio Garcia leading his Corvette teammate Marcel Fassler. And so on back through the field. Bright sunshine out there now.
Well, of course, it's pretty much high noon in northwestern France. And that rain that we thought might be coming does not look like it's going to take place now. Pretty warm again. Sunny day. I think the drivers overall would prefer the dry than the wet. Wet at Le Mans is not very pleasant. It's too high speed. Pole-sitting car here averaged 150 miles an hour. And most of the time, these guys have been averaging around about 145 mile an hour per lap. So you don't want rain if you can avoid it.
Yoke Racing Pescarolo Mazda getting passed by the contemporary Pescarolo with Judd Power. Let's go to Brian Till standing by with American Johnny O'Connell.
Johnny O'Connell just climbed out of the 63, and I don't know that I've ever seen you this tired out of a race car. Obviously, down to 2 drivers does not help at all.
You know what? It's funny because you get out there and you get in and amongst the battle, and you're, you forget that you're tired and that you're sore, and it's just frustrating. I mean, we've had 2 stops now that took 30-40 seconds longer with fuel than it should have, so it's like we're giving it away. So you're frustrated, but you know what, you're going to dig deep, and anything can happen in the next 2 hours and 45 minutes, so all we can do is keep the pressure on. I mean, I would have liked to have
to held Marcel behind me, but you know, sometimes an order comes down from up high. This one wasn't from Obama, but pretty darn close. So you know, they told me to let him go. So I'd have rather done battle.
Well, I know certainly there is no quit on the 63 team, and I saw the fuel flow problems. Danny Bink said maybe he would just fill in for Jan.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't fit. So there's a problem. You know, it's tough. I mean, I don't think Jan's been in the car since 1 or 2 o'clock at night. So it's been a tough go. But you know, this is why you spend all that time training. And you know, you keep telling yourself, I got time tomorrow to hurt. You know, when you're out there in the car, you just ignore it and just say, you know what, we got to push. So we'll get out there one more time, and hopefully Antonio has a good run here.
I'm glad that you said Dan wouldn't fit. I just said he wouldn't fit in Jan's suit, but
well, no. Binks is funny because anytime you complain to him about the car, or, you know, I got in the car once and I thought I broke my rib getting in. He said, bring it in, man, I'll drive it. So there's a long line of guys that would like to drive this Corvette. And, you know, I got to tell you, doing it here at Le Mans is special. We've got so many fans, and, you know, it's just, I know everybody at Corvette Racing, all of our friends back in the States and worldwide really look forward to us competing in GT2. And, you know, Corvette's an icon, and we should be here.
I noticed you had a bit of a limp when you got out of the car, just cramping up from being in there for so long, or the old injuries kind of coming back a little bit?
Well, yeah. No, you know what? It's very, very hard, and I've taken 2 IVs, 2 big bags, you know, around 6 o'clock this morning when I knew Jan was going to be in trouble. So, you know, you're doing that, but I mean, you're just nailing that brake pedal over and over and over, and you think about it, just holding the throttle down a long time, and, you know, a lot of times you push it further than you think it's really going to go, so you're adding about 100 PSI more into that brake, you know, I mean, that throttle than you want. But you know, this place is a challenge. It's why we love it. It's why it means something. And you know, that's why, you know, not many guys get the opportunity to race here, much less win or be up on that podium. So we're going to keep pushing, man.
I know the Corvette fans are cheering the team on, and I know there are a lot of sentimental fans out there. They got a thing for the 3 car.
Well, everybody loves the 3 car, you know, and redheads. You know, I used to have more.
See you, bud.
Yeah, I can still hear the disappointment in Johnny O'Connell's voice. He wanted that 4th victory. And maybe he'll get it someday, but right now it doesn't look like it's going to be today, even though Antonio Garcia is out there trying hard. You heard Johnny refer to Jan getting sick. That's Jan Magnussen, the 3rd member of that team, who came down with a stomach bug early in the nighttime hours and was unable to answer the bell. And if you know anything about Jan Magnussen, he had to be awfully sick for that to be the case.
I was thinking just exactly the same thought. He must be very, very ill to not drive. And of course, it is rather a bit of a throwback for only 2 drivers to drive the car. Interesting what Johnny was saying there about his foot. You know, you push the brake pedal pretty hard. I mean, they've got power assisted steering, but power assisted steering and of course power brakes. But nevertheless, you're putting an awful lot of pedal pressure, and it does get pretty sore. Your foot does get very sore.
Yeah, you're braking with the same part of your foot all the time, and the pedal itself doesn't have any rubber padding on it. They usually just have that spray-on grippy stuff so that your foot doesn't slide off the pedal, but it's really the brake, the pressure that you have to push with the brake bruises the bottom of your foot, and you get one of those rock bruises, and it's extremely painful each time you get there. So you start braking with your other foot and braking with both feet and trying to get your hand down on the pedal or anything you can do.
I can't recall the last time we had 3 teams that each lost one of their 3 drivers. I mean, this year Narain Karthikeyan never got in the number 14 car after dislocating his shoulder, so Charles Waltzman and Andre Lauderer had to go on by themselves. Then Stuart Hall was ejected by officials for that collision with another car on track, so Harold Premat and Peter Cox were on their own. Premat eventually crashed that car heavily. And then the GT1 Corvette of Jan Magnussen, leaving Johnny O'Connell and Antonio Garcia to go as a duo the rest of the way.
Saw the tire changer right there as he was changing the left front tire, kicked the wheel nut, which went spinning down the pit lane. He immediately grabbed one off of a Velcro belt that he was wearing. He had a spare with him to put it on there, and that's some quick thinking on his part instead of have to chase that wheel nut down the pit lane.
That's a pretty expensive part, though.
Yeah, it's about a $1,500 little wheel nut right there that he kicked down the pit lane. I'm sure they went after it, though.
That's right. Rule 1, grab a new one off your belt. Rule 2, go find the one you kicked.
Yes, magnesium one.
Look at these changes from start position. among the GT2 class cars. There's the LMP1 class group, LMP2, and GT1. And it's been an eventful 24 hours, no question.
Yes, the most significant move there in the GT1 was only one place move, but that was Fassler, who moved in front of the aforementioned Johnny O'Connell and his crew.
Of course, with 2.5 hours.
By a minute.
2.5 hours left, they're going to have to stop that car 1 or 2 more times.
That's true.
I mean, you can't count either of those cars as being finished yet.
Not over by any stretch of the imagination.
Look at all the punctures we saw yesterday as the thing went on. Of course, they were driving a lot harder yesterday than they are right now, and you can see that. Everybody's kind of settled into a pace. And here's the Audi guys looking at a tire.
Speaking of tires
and punctures,
they've been a bit of a theme at this year's race.
Well, we talk about the gravel traps here and the stones out there. I remember going a couple years back and walking out there and picking up a handful of those stones, and they are in fact really very sharp, very pointed for whatever reason. I don't know where they get them from, but they're not the rounded pebbles like you would like to see.
And part of the reason that the tire life has been somewhat traumatic is the fact that there is so much competition here at Le Mans. No fewer than 5 different tire companies competing here in this race. In the Peugeot pit, no doubt, fingers and toes crossed. This could be their year. Their 3rd year of trying to beat Audi, and it looks like it might happen today, but we're far from done.
The 77th running of the 24-hour Le Mans underway. Jamie Mello leads the GT2 class in his Risi Competizione Ferrari, defending champions in class. Jamie Mello, Mika Salo, and a new co-driver, Pierre Caffer, this year. This car has had smooth sailing since the drop of the green. Not a mark on it, really. No bodywork damage. It has been all routine for this team. Jamie Mello, 4 new Michelin tires, a load of fuel. They'll drop him off the jacks. He'll be back underway from here at Les Arts. Bob?
Thank you, Brian.
It is immaculate.
Yeah, and that's the way they want it.
It's incredible, isn't it?
That'll go to a collector now after winning 2 times this 24-hour Le Mans and the 12-hour this evening. And not a dent on it.
Pretty special car, pretty special lineup of drivers. And a pretty special treat for the honorary starter, Ferrari president Luca de Montezemolo, who made it clear this weekend in speaking with the press that he would love to see Ferrari back here running in the LMP1 category for overall victory.
Wouldn't that be something?
In fact, I think Audi, without looking at my notes, I think Audi will stop 1 short of Ferrari for second on the all-time list of overall wins among manufacturers, beaten only by Porsche. I think their 9th victory here would have tied them with Ferrari.
I would have only bet that Ferrari would not be bringing a diesel car.
Pretty safe bet. Yep. Got about 2.5 hours of rides like this through the French countryside at 200 miles an hour on public roads. Just a part of what makes Le Mans so special.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me all the years we've been coming here is the lack of animals, being that you're going through the countryside and so forth. We did that in the United States. We'd have deer and all sorts of varmints out there.
Well, there's a lot of houses out here, so I wonder we don't see more cats and dogs wandering around it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You never do, though, do you?
That's a good picture there of that trash collector that Brian and the others have been on about down there with the bodywork. It's part of the safety rules and regulations that you have that at the back, but they tend to get blown off as the race goes on.
And that's why we keep seeing these rear deck lid changes, too, to make sure at the end of these races they all have those safety nets, if whatever you want to call them, safety wire mesh grills.
It's to stop the tire throwing up big clumps of rubber or asphalt or any other debris behind them at ejecting it at high speed.
Well, let's say Peugeot goes on to finish 1-2 in this race. Do you still pursue your appeal with the FIA over the legality of the Audi?
Well, that's a very good question, isn't it? I mean, usually when they were denied a appeal or won't even hear it, you're not going to get anything.
Probably, Bob, would not be worth bothering with.
I think that would be my position.
No.
Yeah.
Although in about 3 hours, my position is going to be horizontal. I'm tired.
Got that right.
Now, of course, John O'Connell was saying tired to hurt tomorrow.
That's right.
Of course, tomorrow they'll be getting on the train going to Paris, and then they'll all be jumping on the aeroplane to come back to the States. They'll have about 8 hours, 8.5 hours to have a nap on the old plane.
Sébastien Bourdais, born not far from this racetrack. Racing here is a bit of a family tradition. No doubt his wife Claire and daughter Emma are here. He'll have to be rushing off to the other side of the English Channel next week for the British Formula One Grand Prix.
He will.
Which you'll see here on Speed.
Well, at least he doesn't have to go far.
That's right.
It's in the neighborhood.
You and I and Steve Matchell will be here. Steve, of course, letting us all down this weekend by not being here to help out.
I think we should have called him at 3 in the morning when we got some emails for him.
Right.
Yeah, we had some emails asking technical questions from Steve.
Steve is pretty much a Formula One guy.
He's not a Formula One man.
He is a Formula One man, not much of a sports car man.
Oh, we got to still woke him up. We
well,
got to be
true.
up.
That would be the point of the exercise, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be the only good part of it. I mean, we had the Spain pop by, so might as well match it up as well.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to see Dave.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dave in a while. Looks like they're now on cruise control to me. You don't see anybody rushing corners anymore, jumping over the tops of curbs. You know, now it's just to a regimented pace, run off the clock.
And then, of course, as you're going slower, you hear all those noises suddenly start.
Sébastien Bourdais knows what it is to travel the world to race one kind of car or another. Then he competed in the 12 Hours of Sebring for Peugeot. Then immediately jumped on the plane for the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne.
Oh, there's a car slowed on track. Sitting there. Is that the Corvette?
I think that's the 64
That is the
car.
64 Corvette.
The leader in the GT1 category. Has he run out of fuel?
Oh, I can't imagine he's run out of fuel. Could it be a prop shaft again? They've had trouble with drive shafts.
Oh, what a disaster for Marcel Fassler.
That would hand the win to Johnny O'Connell, well, wouldn't it?
It would, but might be a bit of a bittersweet one. They wanted to get both Corvettes up there.
Well, with still 2.25 hours to go, it just shows that nothing's over till it's over in this racing. It's just no good counting your chickens.
And this is the race leader in. Chris Neville is there.
Yeah, Marc Genet staying behind the wheel of the 908, just putting fuel right now. It doesn't look like they're going to do tires. Now, talking to Nicholas Manassian earlier, he said, they're going to try some stuff with the 7 car that they might have to do to the 9 car later, but they're doing nothing right now. So it looks like everything good with the number 9. Brian, what do you have?
Checked in down at Corvette, and it seems to be a transmission issue on the 64. Said the telemetry started to show an increased gearbox temperature. It started to skyrocket, and then all of a sudden it fell to 0. That is not a good thing. Dorsey, as you can attest to, when things heat up and then immediately cool down, that is not good.
Yeah, what that normally means is that the fluid that is being read the temperature off of is no longer in the gear case, and now there's just air. And unfortunately, those were corner workers pushing that Corvette toward pit lane. It broke right before they got there. And I just heard Doug Feehan said, I want 4 guys. And they're going to send them down there, I'm sure, to help get the car back to pit lane if possible. But with the marshals pushing it, I'm not sure that that's a good thing.
Meanwhile, Antonio Garcia brings the 63 car back up into the class lead.
like I said before, only in 2007 was the year that both Corvettes failed to finish. One of the cars in 07 did not finish. It was the only DNF they've had since the year 2000. This, of course, could be their second. I'm not sure of that, though. It depends.
Somebody going the wrong.
There's another problem.
Is that the number 5?
Can't tell yet who that is. He should spin it around right here in a minute.
Is that the 5 car?
I can't tell. That's I think it's the Nave Team Go LMP2 car. Yes, it is.
Yep. That's his second place PG car. It has been in second for most of the whole race.
But being in a podium position is a rough place to be right about now.
Oof.
Wonder how he did that.
Must have just got on the throttle a little bit too harshly.
Did a 180 degree.
Did a 180 and got stuck going the wrong direction.
I'm not following you, Greg. I'm sorry.
That's okay,
now,
Brian.
Here's the Corvette with all of the marshals behind it, pushing it. I don't see any Team Corvette members down there yet. And I think he's got a box full of neutrals there, David.
Yep. And just one of those, well, I know how he feels. I had a gearbox failure on that Matra. Well, it happened to Jean-Pierre Jabouille when he was driving it with about 20 minutes to go. So it is very, very, and we were second. Very, very frustrating.
Well, it so often happens with cars that share a common mechanical ancestry. No doubt the boys in the 63 crew now are thinking, what went wrong?
Yeah, and they'll go right immediately to cruise mode and get out of that throttling short shift and take it easy the rest of the time remaining. A little over 2 hours 14.
There's the 76 car. Earlier you heard Patrick Long say his crew would not give up despite transmission problems in this car. The mechanics wanted the opportunity to try to get the car back out there, and it looks like that's just what they've done. It's underway, but it looks like he might be stuck in a gear. There's Oliver Gavin. You can see the disappointment in his face to get this far. Let's go to Brian Till.
Well, the discussion being had down here between Doug Feehan, Gary Pratt's in there as well, and a lot of the crew members, and as well as Le Mans officials, is what can we do with this car if it is indeed made it to pit in and is off the racing surface? Can we send crew to do that, to push it down pit lane and bring it up here and work on it? The rules are very specific about what you can and cannot do as far as assisting on the racetrack, but in pit lane, that's a different story. So they've got to figure out exactly where the car is and what can be done.
Well, we know where the car is. It's right down at the head of the pit lane at pit in.
Yeah, I think they've just pushed it to a safe area off of the racing surface. As you see a car come into pit lane right there, so they clearly have got that out of the way. But can the crew go get it and push it all the way to the other end of pit lane?
There's Gary Pratt. Brian?
Guys, I just spoke with Doug Feehan. He's in an interview right now. I said, can they push it if it's on pit lane? He said, absolutely. I said, can they push it on the racetrack? No. I asked him, and there he is. Doug, we were just talking about what you can and cannot do with that car as far as pushing it on the racetrack. You told me it's in a precarious position.
It is in a precarious position, so that would be up to the officials to take care of that, which they did do. But on video, it looks as though they pushed it halfway across the line, but not all the way across the line. The car needs to be all the way across the line before we can access it and push it back to the pits.
So how do you get it into pit lane? Do the officials have to push it there?
Right now, we're in touch with the seismographic headquarters here in France to see if there might be some sort of earthquake pending. Short of that, I'm not sure. We're working right now to see if it can, we can at least rattle something in it. Unfortunately, it's about that point in time when the track starts to go uphill. So it's going to be difficult to say what we can and can't do. We're trying to convince the officials that it is in a precarious position and the safe spot for it would be pit lane.
You're going for glass half full, not half empty. Half in, not half out.
I am always a half full guy.
All right, no way to bump it on the starter and move it?
Well, the starter is at the back of the car, runs off the gearbox. So if it happens to be a drive shaft that's broken, then is all the starter's going to do is turn over the transaxle. So,
well, they're keeping their fingers crossed in their lobby, and you can't get a better lobbyist than Doug Feehan.
And that is why Jack Roush used to give all the drivers a $100 bill, so you could go to the official and say, we're in a very precarious place.
Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
You and me and this dead president I'm holding in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Another break coming up. Things are getting interesting here as we approach the 2-hour mark remaining at Le Mans. Welcome back to Le Mans. There you see the Corvette mechanics in a standoff with officials down at pit in. They found their race car. Now they just have to be very persuasive about being allowed to leave with it.
Jim Durbin, a longtime friend of mine, been with Danny Binks quite a long time. We go back to grade school together, actually.
That's him on the left?
Yeah. He's watching intently. Been a mechanic with that Corvette team from day one, just about, I believe.
Well, no matter what happens with that Corvette, it's not likely to win its class. Let's go meet a very likely winner, David Brabham, standing by with Chris Neville.
Well, David has emerged from the back of the garage out here in the middle of pit lane. David, I know we're still 2 hours away, and let's not try and jinx this thing, but are you starting to feel a little bit of a sigh of relief?
I think I'm feeling a little bit slightly nervous because, you know, still some time to go, a couple of hours to go. Anything can happen. You know, we've done a great race. We've just stuck to a plan. And so far, everything is going according to that plan, and we just got to keep it going.
Now, you've won GT1 twice. What would it mean to win this race overall?
Well, it probably mean everything, really. Yeah, of course. It's the one we've been trying to win for some time. Not always in a car to win overall, but obviously the last 2 years in GT1 to stand up there on that podium is an experience you cannot describe. It's an amazing feeling.
Last time a Peugeot won, a Brabham was in the car. Do you think you were the magic bullet this time?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the team have done a fantastic job, and I'm just lucky to be in this position to drive for them.
The team was very public about a strategy of the 7 and the 8 car really being more of a sprinter cars. You coming to the 9 car, trying to bring some of that endurance spirit. Do you think that strategy played out, or do you think it's just kind of how the cards fell on the table?
I think it's kind of how the cards have fell on the table, because I mean these guys were definitely fast and consistent. They had their issues. We've still got some time to go, so I don't want to say too much.
You guys have played the perfect game. Let's just hope these next 2 hours pan out.
Sorry?
You guys have played the perfect game. Let's just hope the next 2 hours pan out for you.
Thanks.
Another problem here is the Aston Martin's now pulled off.
Well, I'd be like Jeff. I'd be like David Brabham. I'd be extremely nervous to be having led this long. I mean, it's all too good to be true.
Having seen what happened to the 64 Corvette and now what has apparently happened to the 87 Aston Martin in the GT2 class.
Now, will that bring out a full course caution? I don't know where that car is, but you saw the driver taking his helmet off as if that one's done.
Oh, there it is, just outside the. Oh, that's done it.
No, I mean, so that Aston's parked at the side of the racetrack somewhere, and by taking his helmet off, the driver, I would think, is acknowledging defeat.
Yeah, I would say so. Remember, if he gets 10 meters or more away from that car, he is considered to have abandoned it, and that will be that as the 63 Corvette comes around the Mulsanne corner and heads down to Indianapolis.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do, the officials. I mean, we have 2 cars parked out on the course now. The Corvette, of course, is right pit in. That's probably a safe place, but I'm not sure about that Aston.
Well, let's find out just how disappointed Ollie Gavin is. He's standing by with Brian Till.
Well, Bob, they say Lady Luck has a lot to do in racing. Sometimes you make your own, but today Lady Luck was no lady at all for you guys, Ollie.
No, it's definitely not really gone with us at all today. We've had all kinds of things being thrown at us, whether it was safety cars or punctures. And now, just in this last sort of 5-10 minutes, Marcel radioed in to say he could smell transmission oil inside the car. We looked at the telemetry, there was a big spike in the readings, and yes, there's been some sort of failure with inside the gearbox. We don't entirely know what it is, but Marcel's smart, and he's out there with the car now, and we're endeavouring to get the car back. But for sure, the victory's gone for us today. It was shaping up to be such a fantastic race at the end there. The two cars were running so close, and it was just going to come down to a final little splash of fuel and some tyres at the end, and it was going to be racing on the last lap here at Le Mans, which is really unusual. You just don't usually get it. So, for the two cars to race so close together for such a long time, and then it to be decided by this, it's really very galling and very frustrating, and we've pushed and pushed and pushed. We've dropped back, three times, I think it is, behind the pace car, being pushed back sort of 2.5 minutes. We've made up that time back to the 63 car, only to be sort of kicked in the nuts once, and finally, to be down and out, So.
And you know the highest of highs here. I've seen you with tears in your eyes after the victories that you've had here, and you also know what it feels like to be gutted, and that's what's happened today. Can you even put it into words?
Well, it's very hard. I mean, I had a retirement here in 2007 when we had another transmission failure here. Really unusual failure, but it's one of the worst things, because you're out there with the car, you're desperately trying to rack your brains, think of things you could do to try and get the car back. You're trying to relay all the information back to the team. You're trying to put them, paint the picture for them so they can see exactly what the problem is, because you can only see so much on the telemetry. And I'm sure Marcel is working his arse off trying to get the car fixed and back here, but there's only so much you can do.
Now, best of luck to get it back here. We'd like to see it back on track so that we can watch Corvette go out of GT1 at least with two cars running.
Thanks, man.
Very frustrated Ollie Gavin. Meanwhile, there is Yann Claret in another Corvette C6R, but he is still 2 laps away from surpassing the 64 car to take over second place in GT1. We'll be back with more from Le Mans.
This is perhaps the hardest 2 hours in this 24-hour classic. The run to the checkered flag, it's less than a regular American Le Mans Series race, but it will feel like about 2 or 3. Thanks to Bob Varsha for that previous stint. Bob will be back at the end of the race, and we are looking forward to what may be a very special piece of motor racing history, particularly for French manufacturers and French race fans here at Circuit de la Sarthe. As is the case every year, the crowd starts to swell in these final 2 hours back on the front straight, back towards the start-finish line, so they can capture that special piece of history, Dorse.
Yeah, this is so much going on back there with the Corvette just braking, and while Ollie Gavin was giving his interview, one of the Audis actually didn't make the brake marker and had to go through the runoff area down there. It wasn't the lead car, but or the lead of the Audis, I should say.
So still that comfortable margin of 1.5 minutes between Genet and Bourdais, first to second, and several laps back to Capello in third. This is the sole remaining Pescarolo, and at the moment it is in 9th place with Portuguese driver João Barbosa, who regularly drives for Brumos here in the US in the Grand-Am Rolex Sports Car Series. So Joao's in the top 10. It's not where they wanted the only open top prototype for Pescarolo to be, and he dives for pit road once more. And as he does that, we take you to the Valvoline race recap. It was a fairly straightforward affair at the start, despite Frank Montagny squeezing Alan McNish slightly, and then he put his head down and never looked back. Indianapolis in the early stages, battling with the Aston Martins. Alex Premar was very lucky to avoid serious damage and not to contact. Speaking of contact, Jean-Christophe Bouillon and Pedro Lamy, that caused major dramas later on. Damage for the front of the Audi too. There was contact here between Alan McNish and another prototype, and that required a nose change, but in typical Swift Audi style, that was no major drama. To hour 5, and this was a nasty one, David.
It was a very unusual move there by the 009 Aston Martin. poor old Tim Greaves there in the Radical, and as you can see, it radically changed the shape of the car, although they did get it back running again.
Ahead to hour 6 and transmission troubles for the Peugeot. This was the number 8 race leading car.
And that sidelined that car for a while they fixed it. They did in fact fix the transmission, get it back out there.
However, that handed the lead from that point on to car number 9, the sister Peugeot. To Audi, to Lucas Luhr, and to the end of the race. At the 6.5 hour mark, that was not a pleasant sight. We really fast forward to hour 13. Watch to the left, the team's Speedy Racing Subaru entry just squeezes the class-leading GT1 Corvette, and a nasty, nasty incident for Benoit Treguier.
It looked very, very ominous after a long time there. Took him away in the ambulance, but we hear that he is in fact okay. But look at what the damage it did to that car. Absolutely destroyed it.
Another destroyed car was one of the Aston Martins. It looked very, very nasty. It was a high-speed impact at the Porsche curves, but Harold Primet was okay. And then, just a very awkward incident for Bakarut.
Yeah, Bakarut warming tires behind the pace car and just stuffs it in the guardrail. Look here, trying to get back to the pits, and everybody just has to scramble to get around.
And more recently, the drama's continuing inside Team Yost in the Audi box. Another unwanted stop in the fascinating battle between the GT1 Corvettes, the 64 taking the lead. And we were really looking forward to the fight going all the way to the end. However, this happened. There's a driveline issue with the 64, and it's stranded shy of the pit lane entry.
And that is, we don't know for sure, is a drive shaft, but that's a strange thing. The starter motor works off the back of the transaxle on the Corvette, which means if it broke a drive shaft, it can't start up because the drive shaft would have to make the engine turn over.
So, P1, top 4 in class. It's a minute and a half separating the top 2 to P2. The whole race long, it has been the Essex Porsche Spider, untouchable. It's a new situation in GT1. Although the 64 still are represented in second and reflected in second place, they will not stay there for much longer. That 73 Luc Alphonse Corvette will overtake them eventually. And status quo. The Risi Competizione Ferrari still leads the way, and it's highly likely it's going to be a Ferrari lockout on the podium. To Chris Neville now, standing by with a couple of star drivers.
Well, guys, I got a little bored out on pit lane, so I decided to take a stroll through the paddock here. And who do I run into? Dario Franchitti and Manuel Pirro. Dario, you've been here watching your brother for the past 22 hours. How much fun has that been? Even though they're having problems with the car right now, how much fun has that been?
Yeah, they've had I think it's an electrical problem. We've had a blast. I'm here with a couple of friends of mine, and we went out last night, went down to Indianapolis and stood in the dark, watched the cars this morning, went down past the Dunlop curves, and I just had a great time. The driver parade was fun. As you can tell, I got the cold when I came over from America on Wednesday night, so I'm not feeling so good right now, but really, really enjoyed it.
I think I got the same cold you did. But you've never done this race. I know you want to do it. When are we going to see you here?
Yeah, I had an offer to do it this year, but unfortunately I was testing the IndyCar at Iowa on Wednesday, so I couldn't do both. And you know, my main priority is to go out there and win races in the championship for the Target team. So it was just a matter of priorities, but sometime soon I hope we'll get the chance to do it. We're standing with my co-driver from Goodwood here. We won the Tourist Trophy together at Goodwood, so it's fun to come and see a lot of my old friends too. Unfortunately, apart from Brabs, who's leading, I think everybody else has had bad luck, so I think I'm a bit of a jinx, really.
Now, I've been reading some interesting articles this week that you might have a new teammate next year. I think her initials are DP. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I read that too. I read it on the internet, I think it was on Speed TV. But yeah, when I get home, I'm going to have to call Chip. But as of right now, I know nothing about it. We'll see.
Well, it's great seeing you, Emanuele. Finally get to run into you in the paddock. We've been looking for you all race. You're now an ambassador for Audi. Has it been difficult not being behind with the wheel of the R15 this year?
Well, first talking about Dario, there will be one corner where it will be definitely very quick here. Guess which one?
Indianapolis?
Yes, of course, Indianapolis. Well, back to the R15. Yeah, it's a little bit different and tough for me not to be at the driver. Sometimes, you know, I kept looking at the watch. When is going to be my turn? But it's also interesting to watch and to do another role, which has got responsibilities and is very interesting. What is not very nice is not to see Audi winning. This is very unusual for us, but I've got to say, Peugeot guys, they deserve to win one race. Their car has been very strong in the last 3 years, so you can't win every time. It's not easy not to win, but I think it's okay like this.
Well, Brian, Justin and I had lunch with you on Wednesday this week. We were asking you about retirement, and you're not off fishing. In fact, you've got 5 hotels, and you've also got a pretty interesting software program you've been working on.
Oh yeah, I'm even busier than before, which is really good for many reasons. As a character, I've always been doing a lot of things, sports and stuff. So my day has always been too short, and until God keeps me healthy, it'll be like that. But motor racing, you guys know, I love it so much that I have to be here one way or the other.
Well, the software program is all about motor racing, the beginnings in go-karts. Just tell me a little bit about it.
Well, this is a very cool project with 2 very smart engineers, and we have done a software which is simulating the setup of the go-kart. We know how complex the go-kart is because there's no suspension, so all the work is done by the chassis. We are simulating the behavior of the chassis. You can change all the parameters, and the software will tell you how the car behaves. It's a very first thing ever done like that, and I'm really proud because my dream would have been to be an engineer. If I was not a driver, I would have been an engineer. So to have a project like this is very good, and I think you will hear from it. It's called TVK Project, Tor Vergata Karting.
Well, it's great running into you out here. Hopefully we continue to see you at races. Dorsey, I don't know about you, but if I learned about data acquisition a little bit earlier in my career, maybe as a child, it might have been a little bit easier when I finally got in a race car.
Chris, ask him if he needs a restaurant. It sounds like he needs a restaurant to me.
Great to see Emanuele Pirro. And he actually had another victory recently where he is off to the Race of Champions in China later this year to represent Team Monaco. So even though he's not here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans competitively, he is still very much in behind the driver's wheel in various formats. We need to squeeze in a quick break. 1 hour and 3/4 to go. It sure is looking good for the home favorite team. Can Peugeot go all the way and rack up its first overall victory in 16 years? We're getting closer to finding out the answer. Peugeot competed here 3 times in the early years of the race, 1926, 37 and 38. But their efforts at victory proved unsuccessful. Their best finish was a 5th in 1938. It wasn't until 1991 that Peugeot would return to Le Mans with the soon-to-be legendary 905. In 1992, Yannick Dalmas, Marc Blundell and Derek Warwick finally secured the French manufacturer's first victory at this great race. The following year, not only did Peugeot win again, but they swept the top 3 spots on the podium. The winning car was driven by Frenchman Eric Ellery, Christophe Bouchou and Australian Jeff Brabham. Father Sir Jack celebrated the victory, Peugeot's last here at Le Mans. As we welcome you back to Circuit de la Sarthe, in my last break when Bob was on, just before I came back on, I made a phone call to the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. I rang Jeff Brabham, and he is sitting in his home office watching the internet and watching the numbers and watching the laps tick by, and he said, hey, I'm actually starting to get a little bit nervous and a little bit excited for my younger brother.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, what synergy, really, the fact that Brabs is now on board with the Peugeot squad, and be the first time that they may see victory again here at Le Mans. 31
well, that would be
car.
pretty extraordinary, wouldn't it?
It really would.
Jeff actually said, as we watch the Team Essex boys execute another stop, Jeff said it's amazing the parallels between David's experience this year and mine 16 years ago. He said, I was not part of that 1992 effort. I was only drafted in 93, so I lobbed in just for that one race and I won. And he said, here's David being invited in just for one race, and he's within 2 hours of winning.
You had a similar story, didn't you, David? Yours got lobbed in the wrong car.
Oh, got lobbed in the wrong car, yeah.
Is there dramas for the speedy Team Sabar entry? Look to the right of your screen. It's crawling. This is the car that Nicholas Prost is in.
It's
Probably exhausted by all the TV coverage he's got today.
Yeah. Nicholas is out of the car. We saw him in the pit box just a moment ago. I think Bellici is behind the wheel. Andrea Bellici just crawling. The Essex boys must be getting excited. They've got a handy margin over the Porsche of Segiara.
Finished second here last year, of course, the 31 machine. Coming back strong, took the pole position by 1/10 of a second over the number 5 car. And it's really been a battle between those two Porsches all day long.
Your French is good, Cal. What did he say?
Not a clue, mate.
I don't like that. It's a big something.
So everybody's waking up. Everybody wants to see the grand moment of the finish.
And like Dario said, it's such a fantastic event. So many great viewing points. We always take advantage of that over the course of race week. There's Nicholas Prost watching his car crawl back to the pit lane. But it's such a special place, massive crowd. And you just enjoy the whole day. You're not always watching race cars. You go through the various concession stands and enjoy some of the nice food that's on hand, and the T-shirts and all the really cool posters and everything, and just watching these fabulous race cars around this really quick racetrack is something else.
And of course, it's a great part of France to visit too. The Loire Valley here, some of the finest chateaux in the world, and it's a great tourist attraction. If you can come a couple of weeks early, of course, you can go to the Normandy beaches, which are really only about 100 miles or less from here. So if you come over in early June, you can see a lot and end up by doing this race, which is one of those sporting events that really is kind of a must-do, like going to Wimbledon or the Gulf Open or the Indy 500. It's just one of those things that you should see once.
One thing we don't like to report is that the 64 Corvette has now been taken over. That second place has evaporated. Yann Claret is there for Luc Alphon Aventures. So it's Corvette racing the 63, leading GT1 from the 73. The 64 still holds third place, but it's a sad and sorry story, isn't it, for the boys? Great disappointment for the farewell session of the C6R.
And they have many, many laps over the next GT1 car that's out there. The Aston Martin number 66 has had problems all day long, so certainly in terms of position, they'll not get overhauled by those guys.
This is Jimmy Bruni's Ferrari 430. Was it just hanging, holding station to let that prototype whip on by?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, no, he's gone pretty slow.
It's obviously got a problem, but I mean, he did definitely hang back there.
It's almost like he's stuck in a gear or something. Really high revs when we last got the audio.
Yeah, he's stuck in a gear.
Yeah, he can't shift. Wow. Things changing here in the last couple of hours.
And this is where the drivers of the really fast cars are going to be on the qui-vive, because that car going slowly down there is not till you get right on it you suddenly realize it's only doing about 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, and there's some hairy old places when you go through the Porsche curves.
Yeah, there's nowhere for the slow car to go, really.
Prototypes are hitting those corners at 150, 160 miles an hour, and at that speed, they're almost blind, David. If there's a slow car crawling through there at this pace, could get a bit hairy.
This is what happened to Dominic Farnbacher several years ago in his Porsche in his debut performance here at Le Mans. He had a 7-lap lead over the next car, and it had a major gearbox problem. Had a shifter problem. He broke a shifter and was crawling around in the same gear. He eventually stopped, tried to look in the toolkit to find something, stuck his finger in it to try and do something. That hurt too much. He injured himself, eventually found something. He was walking around in the woods looking for a stick to jam in there. Finally got something strong enough to hold it, limped back. The 7-lap lead evaporated. They lost the category to the Peugeot Esperante by 30 seconds.
Well, you certainly see some cruel stories here at Le Mans. Certainly the joy of winning. Some of the boys have spoken about being up on that podium. There's nothing like it. The whole pit lane is just engulfed with fans from the various countries. There's Neil Janney hoping that he'll see some more action here today.
What's the story? What's the story here?
What they'll do is they'll do the initial service, refueling, of course, in case they can't get it fixed, so that'll all be ready to go. And our man Brian Till is right there on the spot.
Calvin jack stands, or the jack I should say, is going underneath it. What they'll do is spin that around and then back this car into the garage. So you guys saw the car moving slowly. We don't know whether it's a drivetrain issue or not. This car's so quick the other day in practice, actually outpacing the 3 Aston Martins. This is the standard Lola chassis with that same V12 power plant in the back. And I have to admit, I'm not sure of the injection system. The Aston Martins went to a direct injection system. One of them only had it in practice, and all 3 of them had it by race time. Now, when they lifted the engine cover, I do see smoke, but that is not at all uncommon. Rubber pieces and such in the back, little bits of oil. After this length of time running, you would expect that. But a crew going to look and attacking the back end of this Aston Martin powered Lola, and that's the great thing about pulling in the garage. It takes very little time, and once you're past the door, you can use unlimited resources to try to fix the problem. That's exactly what they're doing right now. See them moving the rear tires back and forth, Calvin. That tells me perhaps something in the drivetrain, not the engine, but the gearbox itself, and perhaps that's what they're looking at, maybe a gearbox or maybe a differential. A mechanic climbing in the car right now. He's probably going to reach around the backside of that steering wheel and try to shift some gears. They'll raise it up, start it, and see if they can engage some gears, and I'm thinking it is a gearbox issue.
Well, Brian, this car has been blisteringly fast in the European Le Mans Series, but guess what has been its Achilles heel both at Barcelona and at Spa? Gearbox.
Yeah, and I saw him tugging on one of the half shafts there over on the left side, so they've lost drive, at least in some of the gears. He obviously made his way back to pit lane with some kind of differential gearbox issue, as you said, Brian. And the 78 has got problems too. Chris.
Well, guys, third in GT, the number 78 car. I think we got Matthias Russo behind the wheel right now. It looks like a problem here. They took the rear deck off, reached in, and they were moving the axles around. So it looks like potentially some type of maybe differential problem on the right side of the car. Boy, you just don't want to be third right now in GT2. We saw problems with the 92 car earlier. Now we have problems with the 78 car. These guys, aren't wanting to see this because we've got so much walking wounded in GT2. If you push it back into the garage, somebody's definitely going to leapfrog you on the racetrack.
I'll tell you what, the car that is going to leapfrog these boys is the Krone Racing Ferrari. They've put in a tremendously consistent run here today, kept their nose clean, and we could see 2 Risi cars on the podium here this afternoon. So Tracy Krone, Nick Johnson, Eric van der Poel, currently 4th. And they could inherit 3rd here in a hurry.
There are racing days where things are perfect. And that is one adjective to describe car number 9. Marc Gené now behind the wheel. His teammates David Brabham and Alex Wurz have done a great job. Is there a cruel twist here for the French team? Not one single French driver on board that car.
Well, all of the Peugeot drivers have seen the podium here at Le Mans, but as Alex Wurz is the only guy who's seen the overall victory here. And what a story for David Brabham. Potentially going to win Le Mans 3 years in a row, but his first overall victory, it may come here today.
Very, very close to being on the podium here at Le Mans. We're talking about the ProDrive Lola Aston Martins. They came with 3. It's been a very tough experience for 2 of the 3. But the AMR, the Aston Martin Racing Eastern Europe car of Jan Charus, Stefan Muka and Thomas Enger has performed very nicely indeed. They're 4th overall in this 007 machine. They're some 8 laps behind the overall leader, Marc Gené, but first time out, you can see ProDrive and Aston Martin boys doing exactly what they did in GT1 when they came here with the 550 Maranello Ferraris. Spent the first year or 2 learning, and then bang, they won.
Right now, they're a lap and a half behind the lead Audi that sits in 3rd spot. Christensen has clicked the line at 3:55 laps. These guys are at 3:53.5 essentially as he heads out of Mulsanne and down to Indianapolis.
Doing about the same lap times. The gasoline-powered car in the Aston Martin just not really a match for the big turbo diesels around here.
Well, look, we've made a lot, David, haven't we, about what Hugh de Schonack has said, what David Richards has said about bringing the diesels back again or giving the gasoline-powered cars more. The ACO had their annual press conference on Friday where they announced what's coming up in the future. The big headlines were, and I'm talking about season 2010, safety and reduction in cars' performance, level playing field, cost reduction, improvements in fuel consumption and emission levels, and to ensure that Le Mans remains a race that encourages technical innovation. Sound fair?
It sounds fair. Of course, you know, from that point of view, you shouldn't try and make the level, the playing field level between the gasoline and the diesel, because if you want innovation and you want conservation, obviously diesel is one of the key ways to go. And you know, they've already tried to rein the diesel cars in after such an overpowering success the last couple of 3 years with the Audis. And if they were left to their own devices, they've already cut back the fuel they're allowed to use. If you hadn't done that, the diesels would be even more overpowering than they are now.
Well, as the Aston Martin comes in, let me run through this really quickly. For P1, the changes for 2010, further performance reduction through restrictors and boost limitation, reduction in aerodynamic efficiency without compromising car structure, and clarification of regulations and hybrids to be accepted under certain conditions.
Well, Peugeot, when they announced their program in the 908, said it was going to be a 2-year program with the goal of winning Le Mans in year 2. That has since been extended, of course, because they didn't clinch it last year. And they have talked pretty openly about bringing hybrid technology to Le Mans. But the Astons are in the pit lane, and Brian is right there.
Thomas Inga taking over in the 007 right now. Routine stop. I'm looking at the back of the car. Everything looks good. Really no damage to this car. I did notice one little piece up front had a piece of tape on it holding it in place, so perhaps just a couple of fasteners have come loose. Crew finished with the left side tires. 4 new Michelins going on. Always good to send a new driver out with some fresh rubber on it, so that's exactly what they do, and Thomas Inga will be the driver that takes this car to the checkered flag. The question is, can he make up that lap and a half, and can we see Aston Martin on the podium at Le Mans one more time? Perhaps a little bit of oil being added to this direct injection V12, that beautiful Aston Martin power plant in the back. It sounds like it turns about 20,000 RPM, but they said in fact it only turns about 7,800, but it's got this just high-pitched scream as it goes down the front straightaway. It is a beautiful car in historic colors. It'd be great to see Aston Martin back on the podium. Remember, it was 50 years ago that Aston Martin claimed their first overall victory here at Le Mans.
They did that tire change. That right rear almost was being tightened as the car hit the deck, and kind of saw from the body language like the mechanic gave it a second glance and immediately said, no, I think it's okay. So hopefully he got that secure there.
Boy, I hope he's right.
It's been a tough day for Pescarolo on both fronts, particularly the worry of what happened with Benoit Treluyer in the 908, that huge crash. Outside of that 908's mission was to assist Peugeot winning. The other one was this, the fight with the other gasoline-powered cars like we're seeing here up against the Oreca AIM.
2 classic French squads going up against it in the battle with the petrol-powered cars. Oh, the 007. What's going on there?
Did he spin?
Did he spin it going up the hill there?
Thomas Enger, we believe, behind the wheel right now, and Thomas is one of the fastest guys in the paddock, but he's also prone to mistakes. Now let's take a look here as he turns into the chicane. Comes off there.
Well,
and
I'm
just
glad
loses
you said that he's prone to mistakes, because I was going to say the very same thing while in the pits, but I thought it would be a bit churlish to say that. But there you are. That is a typical Thomas Enger move, that.
Well, he has the odd moment, and you know, I know the team were very down on him after that crash that he had at Ricard. You know, they've got limited budget even at this level with ProDrive and David Richards and Aston Martin. I mean, to start throwing cars at the fence in testing is really unacceptable at this level, and but they believe in Thomas. That's why he's driving here this weekend, but it's late in the going and easy to get caught out on those tires that are, we call them cold, but they get put in those ovens, so he's got some tire temperature in there.
but not racing temperature.
Right.
Which is...
And the pressure too. It's not just the temperature, it's the tire pressure and everything else. So it takes a while to get the car exactly back into its groove.
The attrition rate has not been too bad this year in comparison to years gone by. And to show you the depth and the quality of this field, normally you would see a GT2 car sniffing around the top 15, sometimes around the top 12. The lead GT2 car has not yet penetrated the top 20. That is a very strong field.
Well, we saw in the entry list, Lee, with 20 P1 cars, 9 diesels, 11 petrol-powered cars, 12 P2 cars. And these cars are much stronger than they used to be, particularly the P2 category. Normally we'd be lucky to have 3 cars still running and make that podium.
Well, the GT1 cars are almost always in the top 10. And here we are, the Garcia car, the 63 car, down in 16th spot.
Well, Enger's up to speed now. No drama. And there you hear the sound. Unbelievable. Big puff of smoke right in front of him. Beautiful section of the racetrack. You come down that long run from Mulsanne and through that fast sweep and turn down into Indianapolis, down a couple of gears, and there's just enough time to transition back over to the right to set up for that medium speed left-hander, and then down to Renard, the slowest corner on the racetrack.
Oh, what's going on here?
That's the 008 car, the team car that's laying all that smoke down. We've seen this car smoking 3 or 4 times. They've had transmission problems. They've had transmissions in and out, and it's doing it again. It's laying down that big cloud of smoke again.
2-time GT1 class winner here at Le Mans, Darren Turner, is driving that car, and this could be terminal. This could be terminal for the 008 Aston Martin. Kind of a clattery noise, but sometimes that's when you're running offline. It'll be some of the body work, but ooh, it's getting ugly, David.
It is, and it looks like a surge problem, doesn't it? Every time he goes around those left-hand sweepers, it coughs up more smoke.
Couldn't tell from the audio whether it was just the debris when you're running offline hitting the bodywork, or
that rubber
engine
rolled up hitting the underneath of the bodywork. And the Clag.
Cars look superb though in those Golf cars.
Le Clag here in France, of course.
That head-on shot, kind of the high. They sculpt the bodywork down now. That kind of still gives it that GT40 look of the previous eras.
Well, you can't believe how tiny these cars are as far as height. All of us, except for Bob, are quite shorties. Chris, Brian, Calvin, myself. And these cars come up to about our waist. The top of the roof, they are so close to the road.
You are the shortest, though.
Brian?
Looking at the 008 on pit road, guys. Obviously, the fuel will go in first just to make sure that if it's a simple fix, it can get back out. It'll have a full tank. So they'll always put the fuel in first. Now I fully expect to see, yep, here we go. The engine cover's coming off. I did not see any smoke, any fluid being trailed by the Aston as it came to pit road. As a matter of fact, it sounded fine, but I wasn't further up pit road to hear it go past me. So I don't know if there was any noise from the drivetrain. Calvin, you alluded to perhaps you thought you might have heard some noise or perhaps just debris being kicked up in the wheel wells. Struggling right now with the latches on the back, but believe that they'll certainly go to the drivetrain. How many transmission problems have we seen today? And interestingly enough, remember, it's an Aston Martin, but it has a very similar, if not the exact same drivetrain as the 13 that we just saw with the problem with the gearbox. So the crew going to work right now, they're not looking at gearbox. Looks to me like they're looking at half shafts there on the right rear.
Well, of course, when you see a lot of smoke and oil, it usually means it's being burnt, which is why you don't see it on the deck. But how are they doing? Yeah.
You see the mechanics diving in. You know, it's a sense of pride at the end of this. You just want to get the car to the finish. Just over an hour to go. They'll do everything that they have within their resources to try and fix this car and get Darren Turner and the boys across the finish line this afternoon.
Second place car got within 17 seconds just on pit stop rotation within the lead car of Marc Gené. And now it is Sanders well. So rock solid at the front with an hour and 17 to go. Rock solid can be the term to describe the Risi Ferrari. The boys are headed for back-to-back victories. Isn't that great?
Speed's coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Audi, Truth in Engineering.
Very, very alarming scene here at Circuit de la Sarthe for the 2004 overall winner Seiji Ara in the Navi Team Go Porsche LMP2 car. Perhaps brake failure. He has just gone straight on at the first chicane, the PlayStation chicane. Here's the replay. Not brake failure at all.
Just turned into the braking zone, just turned hard left, and then just clobbers those tire barriers and just tears the car apart, as you can see.
Boy, did he just lose it on braking, or did something break?
I would have to think something broke.
It's so abrupt, isn't it? Ugh.
First look at it is probably more dramatic than when you see it happen in slow-mo. It just kind of peeled the bodywork slowly off.
The first impact was the worst, where it hit the guardrail on the turn-in. The others going through those tyre barriers, of course, are great.
And there is another safety car intervention, as you can understand.
Well, I tell you, this is going to be interesting to see if the two leaders are separated on the lap enough that the safety car, again, just to repeat, we have two safety cars that will be deployed, one from pit lane, one from around the Mulsanne corner. And last time across the stripe, Sébastien Bourdais was 1 minute 48 seconds behind Marc Gené. If they suddenly get grouped in the same segment behind the same pace car,
God, love a duck.
Bourdais is going to get a little appetite for that win.
He is.
Did somebody say management? The team will step in for sure. And you can understand the concern at Navi Team Go. Let's hope there has been some communication from Seiji Ara back to the team.
We saw the thumbs up from the marshal.
I saw the marshal talking to him in the car, so.
This is race leader in for fuel. And that's all. Gené gone again.
Hour 11 to go. They've been doing like 12 lap stints, which is about 45 minutes or so, 45 minutes. But under caution, these diesels just really save a lot of fuel. There's the good news. Seiji Ara out of the car.
On a lighter note, we were talking with Seiji earlier this week, and he was having quite a giggle about the fact that he hasn't been here for the last 3 years. So they made him do what the equivalent to rookie orientation is. He had to do 10 laps and prove that he was worthy of racing here this weekend. And he is the 2004 overall winner with Tom Christensen. And he giggled about it and said that won't be a problem. And this car has been running very, very well. Second in class in P2 until this moment.
Oh dear, how disappointing. The marshal said make him lie down or sit down. He was sort of saying, no, I think I'm okay. And they were saying, no, we want you to sit down there. They're behind that tyre wall there.
And as you said, David, it would have been the initial impact with the barrier on the left side after the braking zone. Oh, look at this. Is that the RML car?
I think that's the Cruise. That's the Cruise Mazda.
That's an open cockpit car.
That's the 39. And that car is on fire. That's the Cruise Schiller Mazda. And the fire marshals are there. The officials will take care of that situation. And it is in a safe zone.
Boy, these. At one stage we were rattling along for a pretty quick race here and a massive distance travel. These long safety car peers are putting paid to that.
Yeah, and you don't want him going any further down pit lane with the refueling rigs just a couple of 100 feet further down where they'd begin.
Whatever it is, he doesn't want to go out. It may be being replenished by leaking fuel or leaking oil onto the hot engine, and they can only keep it at bay. If I was him, I think I'd get out at this stage.
Well, again, he recognizes the rules. If he,
but he can only stand. He can at least stand by it. He'd have to be.
While this situation is addressed, some positive news for another ALMS team. The second Risi Competizione Ferrari in GT2, the Risi Krone car, as we like to call it, as the #1 Audi is in for another service. Mr. Le Mans behind the wheel. Tracy Krone has moved up to third in class, third in GT2. That means 1 and 3 for Risi Competizione. Great news.
Now you see the driver pod, how strong they are. Everything being taken off that car, but the driver sitting in a strong, strong cocoon.
While we're under caution, we will squeeze at a break. We'll be back. If you are just waking up, just turning on, good morning. Welcome to Speed's continual live coverage. And that pained look from the Cruz Schiller Motorsport camp is all about this. The Lola Mazda has finally let go. Although the driver is back in the car.
Fuel pump on maybe. Go on.
Ex-Grand Prix driver behind the wheel. Hideki Noda.
Now we put it on first, put it in neutral. Just the master switch and... Yeah, that's it, now we got it.
And that desperation that you can hear, that frantic discussion, just underscores the passion that is Le Mans. These guys aren't in contention for a podium. They're nowhere near winning. But finishing to many teams is like victory. And that's what the KSM team want to achieve here.
They will work hard, led by Kai Cruz. This is not a big budget team. They really had to scramble to get this program together. And they want to see the checkered flag here today in one of the 4 Mazda-powered cars in P2.
Well, while we're under caution, we're talking about Mazda. I know that Brian Till is standing by, from someone who we've come to know very, very well with Mazda here in the USA.
So Nico, you're going live to the America right now, but you're no stranger to Speed Channel, I hear.
No, I lived in the US for 3 years. I studied Columbia University, so I watched a lot of racing on your channel at the time.
So you understand the culture?
Yeah, quite a lot. I love NASCAR and all these things. It was really, really interesting, different view of racing, but I liked it a lot.
Now, the race has not gone the way, obviously, you'd have planned, but has it been still a good experience for your rookie Le Mans 24-hour?
Well, yeah, for me it was really good. I think I had very, very strong pace, and I could do the 4 stints pretty easily physically, so it was good. It's just a shame, you know, to end the race like less than 2 hours away from the end. It's life, it's racing, and well, I'll be back and hope to be at the top the next time.
You'd like to have a mix between your Formula career and doing a race like Le Mans is still a great training.
Yeah, I think Le Mans is just amazing. It's such a great race. So I can't see my racing career without Le Mans anymore. But I really like Formula Seaters, you know, like A1GP is fantastic. If I can continue and do both, it's great.
Well, everyone in America will be following you on Speed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And apologies there. Of course, that wasn't Brian with John Dooner, but we will get to Brian momentarily. Great interview, Justin. Nice to hear from young Nicholas Prost, and we look forward to following his career in the future.
And just a really nice young man, and we talked about Bruno Senna and the similarity, should I say, between Bruno's eyes inside the helmet, and there's no mistaking whose dad that was to
absolutely not.
Nicholas.
Look at this
there.
stream of oil that's been laid all down the main straight, down to Arnage and around the corner. So not quite sure who laid that, whether in fact that was that car.
This is just a sequence of shots that we've been getting from the well feed. Now we can join Brian Till. Go for it, Brian.
Not only in the USA League, but obviously an international presence. John Doonan, who we're used to talking to on a regular basis with ALMS. Great to see you over here, and you obviously have a lot of involvement with the Mazda product that we're seeing here, and obviously Mazda has a long history here at Le Mans as well.
You're right, Brian. It's 25 years ago, we had 4 cars on the grid, and here in 2009 it matches that total, so we're really proud to be here. We had 4 great cars. Unfortunately, 3 of them are out at the moment, so we're trying to make it here the last hour and 5 minutes. This engine has been a big, long project for us, but we've tested it here in public like we do a lot of things at Mazda within our means, just like our dealers, that scrappy car company. And so we're trying to make it the last hour and 5 minutes with the Oak team here, and we got our fingers crossed.
1 bullet left in the gun, guys.
It has been a big effort, Le Mans 2009. And Calvin mentioned earlier in the broadcast that another Mazda driver we know so well from Grand Am, Sylvain Tremblay, was there this year, is there this year, and is really hoping to have a ride in 2010. We'll follow that story and a whole lot more when we come back. Exactly 1 hour left.
Feet don't fail me now. Just one more step, just one more moment.
Isn't that a wonderfully appropriate soundtrack? Feet don't fail me now, body don't fail me now, mind and car don't fail me now, because we're inside the final hour, 55 minutes to go. And a man who knows all about hanging in there to that final lap is Justin Bell. Justin?
Well, hanging in there is just it. You're almost nervous with less than an hour to go that things can still go wrong. But really, at this stage of the race, you're able to pace it and hopefully bring it across the line. Patrick, you brought something very special here with Don to the race this year. But let's take all that apart. Your new team, new team of drivers, rookie drivers to this track, and it looks like you're going to finish on your first attempt. There are many, many big budget teams and drivers that have never pulled that off.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible. I don't want to say anything until we cross the checkered flag, but yeah, it's been a long 24 hours, and to be in the top 10 is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's everybody, whether it's your mechanics, whether it's you, Don, with all the work you put together with the charity, there's something very special about Le Mans. How would you put that into words for everyone?
Those words are tough to find. We are so grateful to be here, and this is our dream shot. I mean, to leave here with what we've learned and the experiences we've had, absolutely incredible. And I got to tell you, we rode Joe and Patrick hard. Pretty common knowledge. I got sick mid race, and these guys got rode hard and put away wet. But I can't thank Dempsey Racing and Joe Foster enough for getting involved with us.
Patrick, your team here too. I mean, Advanced Engineering AF Course has done a phenomenal job with the preparation of the car. We had a great car all week. They've done a masterful job and took great care of us. So I think a lot of credit goes to that team.
A lot of credit goes to that. A lot of credit goes to you too. And I can see it in your eyes. You're experiencing the emotion that Le Mans brings. Whether it's from Peugeot to Audi to you guys, Le Mans is truly probably the most special race you'll do in your life.
Absolutely. It doesn't get any bigger than this. And to see the field that's been here for the last 24 hours and the people who didn't make it and to be in the top 10 is just unbelievable. And on top of that, we've raised $253,000 that will go to the charity, and that's incredible on top of it all.
Yeah. And guys, it's not too late for you to pledge your money, so please go to teamseattle.com and do your last bit. Gentlemen, it's been an honor and pleasure, and I'm sure everyone will be looking forward to your return next year.
Thank you.
Isn't that great? What a wonderful story. We've been hanging with the guys for so long at the Grand Am events, Joe Foster and Patrick Dempsey, and the build-up has been immense, one step at a time, getting through that test on the Bugatti circuit, and here they are, not only making the race, making the start, but they're on the verge of finishing in the top 10.
Meanwhile, the Aston boys not giving up. And the real key is you have to be running at the finish of this race. See that checkered flag to be classified and also complete 75% of the distance. So that's the goal for a lot of these teams in the last hour, is just to get their car mobile.
This is the car, the Ferrari 430, that's been having trouble. Yes, even Dr. Wolfgang Ullrich needs sleep. And I think if that #1 Audi had been a little closer to the front, you would never see that man there having a cat nap. He stands to attention all the time. However, he knows that today is not Audi's day.
Kind of a surprise, I think. I think everyone up and down pit lane have seen the history over the last decade of Audi and what they've been able to achieve with brand new race cars. And they felt, well, they haven't had a lot of races, haven't had a lot of prep, but they'll get it right. And the factor of the matter is that Peugeot were just playing faster than them today. And on top of that, the Audi had those niggly little issues as well, David, in the pits.
Well, we heard, from Tom Christensen, and we also heard from the Scottish driver that we had a lot of understeer in that car early on. And as the track rubbered in and the car took a bit of a set and a bit of a grip, that went away. But they then had this problem with the turbocharged charge overheating, and part of that was brought on by the fact that the radiators were having a problem, and they either needed slightly bigger radiators or they needed slightly cooler weather. This was the hottest day of the week by far, the hottest 2 days of the week by far, and it obviously caught them out. And of course, if that charge of air going into the engine is too hot, I mean, you lose drastic amounts of power. Drastic amounts of power. And they were slow down the straight. And slow down the straight at Le Mans is the kiss of death, because so much of this place is very, very high speed straight.
But I think they've missed racing. There's that saying that testing is one thing, racing is another. They have not competed in the LMS series in Europe. They have not competed in the American Le Mans series like in years past, except for the 12 hours of Sebring. They had a terribly wet winter testing program. They didn't, and nobody did the pre-taste here at Le Mans. So it's been very limited running for that brand new car, and I think that may be the key.
And you absolutely cannot compare racing to testing. There's nothing like racing to get a car right.
And you know they're going to be disappointed, but think about Dindo Capello, Alan McNish. No one really knows if they're going to see competition again this year. There's no designated Le Mans Series program, nor in the ALMS right now. There's rumors they may be back, but right now for Dindo and Alan, it was all the testing and then Sebring and Le Mans. So they won Sebring, but this was the big one. And now you look at the rest of the season and it's kind of empty. These guys want to race. They want to compete.
Yeah, they do indeed, and it's very frustrating for the driver. We saw that with Mika Salo, who you guys are saying hasn't driven a car since Sebring, and here he is in June, and touchwood, looks like he's going to win the class.
There's the 1998 winner, overall winner, Stefano Ortelli, had a very scary crash early in the race. Tete Rouge was able to escape and get going again, and look at all that oil dry down on the track, and Emmanuel Collard just
that's the sort of stuff that could go into your radiator duct and into the matrix of the radiator. And with only, still down to 49 minutes, it can still scupper you.
All right, while we're under this caution, we're going to bring you up to date. I know that many of you have just turned on. Good morning. This is what's happened overall. Maybe you weren't with us yesterday, but it was Peugeot from the start. It's been Peugeot all the way. It was 3 versus 3. It was a fair fight as far as the factory cars. And the first one to bow out, not out of the race completely, but out of the fight, was the 3 Audi. Then there was this. You don't need 2 Peugeots hitting each other. 1 factory car, 1 customer car. That was not cool.
This was a big moment. Stuart Hall and the Aston Martin really just bad judgment there. These prototypes are difficult to see, but you just got to give these guys some room, and he didn't do that for Tim Greaves. Major incident, tearing that car apart. They did see action further on.
So the 7 was damaged. This was the lead car with Sebastian Bourdais after taking over from Franck Montagny. Some transmission issues at the back. A prolonged pit stop. They lost the lead. to the 3rd car, to the 9 car. It's stayed that way ever since. Remember I said that one Audi was gone? Make that 2. Lucas Luhr at 9:30 p.m. local time, 6.5 hours into the race. And then this, one of the customer 908s went out. So they were going 1 for 1 as far as Audi versus Peugeot, losing their soldiers, losing their fighters for this overall battle. That was Benoit Trelier, and he is okay. We're pleased to report that 908 obviously is not.
Then the Aston Martin, the 009 Aston Martin here of Henri Premack crashed going into the Porsche curves. The second car to crash there. That was where Lucas Luhr had crashed earlier on.
And another long pit stop for the Audi boys. Alan McNish jumping out of the car inside the garage. It's probably happened 6-8 times today. And then we saw a tremendous battle between the 2 Corvettes. The 63 car had the upper hand. Then Marcel Fassler took the lead. But in the next hour, the car is left stranded on the racetrack with some kind of driveline issues. The Corvette boys thought they could maybe recover it, but it wasn't to be. They have retired.
And this was the 2nd place car in P2. Seiji Ara for the Navi Team Go entry, just slamming the tyre barriers and the barrels after something we understand, we're guessing, that broke when it was heading down Mulsanne into that first chicane. We go back to live pictures in the lead GT1 car. Final pit stop for Johnny O'Connell, Jan Magnussen, who has been ill for most of the night, and Antonio Garcia. When you're on a run, you're on a run. When you're on a roll like Garcia, it's unbelievable.
Johnny O'Connell will take over, as you said. Team nice and slow with getting this stop done. They're going to check suspension components. I did notice a lot of sand inside the wheels when it came in, so don't know if Garcia had an off somewhere. I don't see any on the under tray, but the team looking closely, just making sure that there's nothing they need to repair. They've got a comfortable lead right now. They're going to do it the right way. Doing it the right way includes putting Johnny O in the car. A stalwart here at Corvette Racing. Been here really from the beginning. Crew looking at the left rear as well, just checking things out. I guarantee you, as tough as a guy as he is, there will be tears in his eyes at the end of this one. If they can make it to the end, it'll be 4 victories, the first American to do that here at Le Mans. And oddly enough, for Dan Binks, who's been with this team for so long, guys, I don't think that Dan Binks, as a crew chief, has a victory here at Le Mans. And I can tell you, if that's the case, the big guy, he'll have tears in his eyes as well, Lee.
And in this time of negativity and hardship, that will be a much needed shot in the arm for everybody associated with General Motors. Timing is perfect. We go back racing here at Circuit de la Sarthe in the final 42 minutes. And from here on out, it needs to be mistake-free. No mechanical errors, no misjudgments. Just keep it calm, and Peugeot will see its first victory, its first overall victory in 16 years.
First car we're looking at there is Romain Dumas in the number 3 Audi. They're down in 17th spot overall. Closely followed by Nick Manassian, who have really dragged that number 7 Peugeot up to the 6th spot, and then the overall leader, Marc Genet, just trying to keep it clean. There's Brabs, there's Alexander Wurz, the 2 teammates for this man. Just fingers crossed that he doesn't encounter any problems here during the last 40 minutes or so.
Coming down the straight for the first time, we've got all that oil dried down there, so there's going to be a pretty big cloud of dust for whoever's following.
And for Marc Genet to drive this car to the checkered flag will be a huge honour. He finished runner-up last year. He shared that car with Jacques Villeneuve and Nicolas Manassian. And those really tense moments in the final hour, well, he's there again. But instead of it being overcast and rainy, bright sunshine and great conditions are what he has and what he enjoys in Le Mans 2009. Hey, we really want to thank you for sending all of the emails in, and we have one final one here, and we throw it up. It's from Joe. I used to follow Jeff Brabham in his IMSA GTP Nissan days. Where is Jeff now, and what is he doing? Joe, you're not going to believe this, but I do have a few special contacts in Australia, and we've been able to get Jeff Brabham on the line. Hi, Jeff. Lee Diffie with you here, and thank you very much for your time, and great to have you here live on Speed.
Yeah, good, Lee. It's good to speak to you again. And, yeah, I've got my fingers crossed for David at the moment, so hopefully he can his car can get through the last 40 minutes without any dramas, and be fantastic if he can win the race.
Mate, does 16 years ago feel like yesterday?
Yeah, actually, 16 years ago sounds a very long time to me. So, yeah, definitely, it doesn't seem that long at all, actually. And obviously, I've got some great memories, and bringing the Peugeot back home for its last win there. So, the fact that David's finally got his opportunity to run up front and try and win the race outright, and the fact that it's in the Peugeot as well is kind of ironic. So, hopefully, history is going to repeat itself.
Jeff, here in the speed booth, we have both David Hobbs and Calvin Fish. The boys are eager to talk to you as well.
Yep, that's good. I haven't spoken to them for ages.
Now, how's life out there in the down under these days, Jeff? Do you miss the racing much?
Well, I do and I don't. I think, when you get towards the end of your career, if you suddenly realize you can't perform at the level that you've had during your career, then for me it was actually quite easy to stop racing. So, and I haven't missed it that much, but, I've got obviously David to follow, and then unfortunately I've got my own son, Matthew. He's starting a career as we speak, so, I haven't been too far away from the racetracks.
Jeff, it's Calvin Fish. Great to hear your voice, mate. And certainly when you reflect back to 1993 with that victory, the team obviously had great structure around Jean Todt, and this year Peugeot have a similar background with their team principal in Olivier Canel. And it seemed like this car certainly had the speed the last couple of years, but not the organization and the structure. Do you believe that bringing that man in and just sort of like making sure no stone went unturned has really made the difference this year?
Well, I think it makes a difference in any team, as you know, and, just paying attention to every single little detail when you lead up to a race like this, and then having confidence that, how hard to push the car. And obviously, the Peugeot was beaten by the Audi in Sebring, but it does seem that the car is very well suited to the Le Mans track, and it's actually been, I know I spoke to David before the race, and he was quite concerned that the Audis were going to be really fast in the race, but it really hasn't turned out to be the case, which is a bit of a surprise. So I think obviously Peugeot knew what they had, and they must have been pretty quietly confident that they had the pace, and obviously the reliability's been there as well, and they've come home worthy winners. Well, hopefully worthy winners. It's never over to the checkered flag, obviously.
Jeff, our pit boys have spoken with David numerous times over the past 23 hours and just tried to get from him what it means to be driving for Peugeot in France with a shot at winning this race. Tell us what that was like. And you were surrounded by French drivers in your car. David has a Spaniard and an Austrian with him, but you were fully surrounded by the French. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, really. Well, one thing is, David's always been a bit upset that he didn't get that drive 16 years ago. And, he was actually chasing the drive. And, when Peugeot rang me, I put the phone down, immediately rang David and said, look, I'm driving for Peugeot. And there was just this silence at the end of the phone, because he's still convinced to this day that they got the names muddled up and they rang me by mistake. So, which is quite a funny story. So hopefully, he can finally win one as well now. But I was the only person who couldn't speak French in the whole team. They must have had like 200 people there, so it was sometimes quite interesting. I remember once I nearly hit a back marker in the last quarter of the race, and I flat spotted all 4 tires, and on the radio just yelling, I need tires, I'm pitting. And then when I came into the pits, everyone was standing there with fire extinguishers and not tires, so the translation sort of went a bit funny, in the heat of the moment. So, but we got it sorted out. And and then one thing I suppose that, I was driving for an all-French team. I had 2 French teammates, and why Jean Todt did this for me, I have absolutely no reason. I've never really found out, but he actually took me out of the rotation and let me finish the race, which is something that I'm just eternally grateful for, and it's just a fantastic memory that'll go with me to the grave, really. So.
All right, Jeff, we'll keep your fingers crossed for another 35 minutes, and your little brother may be able to share that experience that you have as well. Thanks for your time, and we're all cheering David on.
Okay, well, it's great to talk to you all again, and keep well, and hopefully I'll see you all soon.
There he is, Jeff Brabham, 1993 winner here at Le Mans for Peugeot, and what a great family moment it may be in 34.5 minutes time.
I mean, the irony that the whole thing is absolutely extraordinary, really.
It is, it really is.
I mean, the last 2 wins for Peugeot, both driven by Australian brothers. How many Australians have won this race?
Up to date, 2. Jeff Brabham and Vern Schuppen. So
right.
David will just be the 3rd.
We're looking now at the number 8 machine, the local man Sebastien Bourdais, and the crowd will go crazy certainly if one of these Peugeots can bring it home here this afternoon, and they're going to love the win. But think about if this man had been the guy on top of the podium. Local man, born here just a few miles from the track here at Le Mans, Sebastien Bourdais.
Well, they had that issue late yesterday afternoon where they had to change the left rear suspension. We never did find out what went wrong with it. It might have been a drive shaft issue, but they changed the whole left-hand side rear suspension, which of course cost him just enough laps to put him behind. The other guy that's done unbelievably well, of course, is Manassian in the 7 car, who's now running 6. And they were down, you know, like 12 laps at one stage after that terrible issue of being run into in the pit lane by the other privately owned car from Pescarolo.
Mr. Smiley, Nicholas Manassian owns the fastest lap of this race, and that will stand for the next 32 minutes. How much things can change in the space of 12 months. This time a year ago, Alan McNish had a wonderful feeling. So too did Tom Christensen and Dindo Capello. They knew that they were driving to victory. This year, it is a very different story for the number 1 in every aspect of that description, the number 1 Audi team.
My heart is not bursting with grief for Christensen and McNish. They had a pretty fair run. You could say that Tom Christensen's had more than his fair share of wins here, and he's still going to be on the podium.
Just an incredible knack of bringing it home and being in the right car each year, and great teammates. And you know, Tom is just a master around this place, but he's dug deep here today along with his teammates. As you said, Lee, it was a tough race for these boys, and Dindo Capello said it early that the car was not working to their liking. They didn't have the speed, and then when they had the overheating issues, they lost speed and lap time. Very inconsistent with that.
And of course, the changes in the management at Peugeot have obviously worked out well. The team has been much better organised. If it hadn't been for that coming together, which was a team mistake, I still say they should never have let Manassian out of the pits when the other car was coming in. So it was really the Lollipop guys' fault. They'd be running 1, 2, and 3 at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, certainly the Peugeot factory team should have delayed Lamy, but on the other hand, I don't know why Bouillon didn't see him going. I mean, what was he thinking? I mean, the car's in his pit box almost as he tries to chop across. I mean, you can stop the car at that speed, but you'd have to say that it was from an organization standpoint, a mistake by the factory crew.
You spare a thought for the former boss of Peugeot Sport, Michel Barge, who put this program together and then was moved out of that role. Olivier Canel came in. Was it Michel Barge's planning and everything that he put in place, or is Olivier Canel a genius who has restructured things and got them more highly organized that has put them in this position for victory? Them being Peugeot.
Revised front aero on this car, and I'm not sure if the pictures are going to show it, but right down in this area, right there, see like that wedge, that shovel nose that they've employed for the first time here at Le Mans, compared to the Pescarolo car that had the old bodywork on. Very different look there. Trying to balance out in terms of the aero and certainly get more straight line speed here.
And they have proven to be very quick in a straight line. The 007 Aston Martin being driven by Enger, who started this final stint with a bit of a blooper there, spinning it under the Dunlop Bridge. Luckily did not get it stranded in the gravel. Obviously decided at this stage that they're going to finish this race running off the pace. Not that much off the pace there's anything wrong, I don't think, but
just think about the wonderful events that all sports car fans, and us included, as this is going slow.
What's
this is the 8. It's going very slow.
Very slowly.
So the 8
Oh,
car.
that's out of Mulsanne. Oh, my goodness me.
And this is way too early with 25 minutes to go. Sometimes they're going to stage things, get them on the same lap and photo finish and all that. But right now, Bourdais must have a problem.
Oh, my. Well, there you go. I mean,
can you imagine the nerves now down in the Peugeot
25
pit?
minutes to go.
Yeah, they may not be cheering in a moment.
Oh, my goodness me.
He's going to need all the help he can get right now.
Is he going slower and slower? Is he going to get it even back to the pits?
Right now, he has a 6-lap lead over the third-placed Audi with 25 minutes to go. So if he didn't see any more action and the Audi kept clicking off the laps, the Audi would overtake him. And then, of course, there's the classification part of this. He has to be running at the finish anyway. The audio from the diesel is kind of strange at the best of times. I just don't know why the engine that operates. It certainly doesn't sound healthy, but it doesn't sound healthy to me anyway,
No.
David, when we've been hearing it during the race.
It doesn't give us a lot, does it?
No, it doesn't. But as you said, he has to keep going. He has to take the flag.
A long way to go at this speed around this 8.5-mile circuit. This feels like an eternity for Bourdais.
And that's why you just have to keep digging. When you're down and you're several laps down, you think, what the heck? Why should we keep pushing? Why should we keep repairing these race cars? Well, it can come back to you. You just got to be around at the finish and then see how the cards fall.
And when that happens and you've got a sister car in the lead, the shock waves ripple through the entire organization. What is wrong with the 8, and is it going to happen to the 9?
Exactly.
There's Brabs there on the left.
Thinking, thank gosh, that's not my car.
And at this stage, it gets a little too much. The stress gets a little too much with 23.5 minutes remaining. Now, is he running a little faster, or is that deceiving because we're getting the chopper shot?
I think it is picked up a bit of speed.
So uncertainty in the Peugeot camp. Bourdais is closer to home now.
"23 minutes to go, plus a little bit. And that would be 6 to 7 laps for the Audi that he can do.
He did not.
He's kept running, and I think what they want to do is get enough laps on the board that they cannot be surpassed by the Audi, but the key is going to be keeping that car running. Depending on what the problem is, I mean, you come into the pits, you got to shut the engine down. So you don't want to get into a situation where it wouldn't start again. So maybe they're saying the best thing is just cruise around.
But the trouble with this track is it's 8.5 miles long, and as you've seen from the track maps, it's lozenge shape. So, you know, when you get down at Mulsanne, I mean, you're an awful long way from home and help.
There used to be a rule in place, David, that those final laps had to be at a minimum speed as well.
Yeah.
So
you've
that
got to
could come
cover
into play.
70% of the distance, which he obviously will do that very easily. But I think there's a rule about the final few laps. You can't just stop and stooge around.
So all of a sudden, there's a breath of fresh air in the Audi camp.
This might be the second step of the podium. But it ain't over till it's over in racing. There's no doubt about it. You've got to keep going. People often comment on people in Formula One who are having the most titanic battles for like 12th and 13th, and they say, well, you know, what are they bothering for? They're only in 12th or 13th, but of course you never know when that's suddenly going to change into a point-paying position.
And is it too much of a long shot for the lower Aston Martin?
What's going on here?
Well, there's...
What car is that tucked in behind?
So there's all three of your Peugeots together now.
Yeah, I think...
Is it waiting for the 9 and the 7 to get together?
My goodness, they're trying to orchestrate this thing with a lot of time left on the board, so maybe that was the whole key there. They had Sébastien Bourdais wait so they can get those 3 Peugeots line astern.
Yeah, because he's picked up speed
now. He has.
Frank Montagny, the man who was blistering in his first quadruple stint, unfortunately has to swallow the pill of finishing second, knowing full well his car is capable of winning.
Those teams, when they're doing these kind of things, if they're listening to our transmission, must chuckle to themselves as we're throwing all these potential what ifs out there, and that's all under control, mate.
Just keeping you in touch with the other classes. Good news, in GT2, the Risi Ferraris are 1 and 3. So the Krone Risi Ferrari is headed for its second podium in, 3 years here at Le Mans? Which is wonderful stuff. And the 82 lead Risi Ferrari back-to-back wins. In GT1, the 63 Corvette is coming in for its final stop. Brian?
63 is in. Jack's underneath the wheels on the 63 car. It looks like they're going to roll it in the garage. Don't know if it's a problem or not, guys. Crew operating very slowly down here. There's a lot of pride on this team. And if memory serves me correctly, history says the first time Corvette won at Le Mans, they had a lead, they backed it into the garage, and this car is going to look good at the end. I don't see mechanics running with parts or anything like that. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. Johnny O'Connell sits in the car. They're going to take it in. I see the rags, the cleaner coming out. It's going to be a beautiful, bright yellow Corvette when the checkers fall here at Le Mans. Now, there's a lot of pride with that. A little bit of danger, too. Remember, it does have to refire on its own, and it's one more time that you got to depress the clutch, put it in first gear, and depart pit lane.
Well, that's, I don't know what you think, David. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You're going to have a lot of heat soak there and stuff going on, and the car has to fire back up. It's about 8 laps ahead of the next car in category, but
I think a racing car that's done a 24-hour race should look like it's done a 24-hour race. I mean, Sterling Moss's face when he used to win those races is absolutely black. And
So a trio of Peugeot 908s. This will be quite the spectacle. In just 18 and a half minutes time, we'll take our final break. When we come back, we'll take you all the way to the checkered flag. It's all about teamwork here, and we've got the whole team back on deck. Dorsey's back, Bob's back, all the boys in the pits are here, and it's teamwork out on the track as well. The Aston Martins are running together, the remaining 2 Aston Martins, that is. The 3 Peugeot 908s are running line astern, and yes, in the background, a beautiful, clean Corvette C6R. All hands were on deck there to make that car fresh, including former race winner Ron Fellows even had the rags out cleaning it to make it look good.
Yeah, it's not the first time that's been done either. You know, it's kind of controversial coming in and shutting the engine off because you don't know if it will start. But we actually did that back in the old Roush days after the 24-hour win where they actually waxed the car before we did the photo op. Still a bit risky.
So the Peugeot team there, still pretty stern-faced, poker-faced. They recognize anything can happen in these events, but I don't think I've ever seen one like this, David, where
they're running up to a pretty good pace again now. They're doing 38s, but when Bourdais slowed up, it just about gave me a heart rate. I thought, oh, I can't believe it.
Now the Audis have formed up.
2 Audis have formed up. The Corvette's nice and clean. Apparently Jan Magnussen has miraculously appeared after being ill all night. A bit like Peter Gregg when Brian Redman and John Fitzpatrick won the 1976 Daytona 24-hour race, and Peter Gregg missed 80% of it because he was ill. And suddenly, on the podium, there he was, all brand new clean overalls, brand new clean booties because it was raining, and accepted the trophy and made the victory speech. Brian Redman's still spitting blood over it to this day.
Le Mans is one of those events where you can really dig deep into the history and find some pretty interesting facts. Luigi Chinetti, a 3-time winner who represented both Italy and the United States, won in 32, 34, and then 15 years later, won in 1949. It's almost that gap for Alexander Wurz, co-driver to this man here, Marc Gené, and David Brabham in that lead Peugeot. It's been 13 years since Alex won his one and only one, which was his first one in 1996.
That's the way to do it. Go in there, win the race. I remember being very irate with Andy Wallace on the way back to England after he'd won his very first race in '88, and I said, I just can't believe it. He said, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Go and do the race and win it? And I said, yes, I know you are, but...
There's Mags back in the Corvette pit. He's been sick. Certainly played his part, putting the car on the pole, putting a storming stint at the beginning, or during the early hours, should I say. And there's the difference in the Corvette, the split screen before and after.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Terribly disappointing for the team, even though they're going to take the top spot. Very disappointing, of course, that the second car, the 64 car, had that gearbox failure so close at the end of the race, less than 2 hours to go.
Well, we could have been seeing a fascinating battle between those two cars.
Yeah,
They're running very similar lap times throughout the event.
They wouldn't have been cleaning it then.
No.
They'd have been out there duking it out.
You notice all the other teams holding American flags or national flags. And in the case of the Peugeot team, they're handing out Peugeot flags.
Well, of course, Peugeot still very, very much controlled by the family. The Peugeot family still in charge, and there are rumors, as we know, the motor industry at the moment is in a huge state of flux. Companies failing like flies, and high-flying companies not flying anything like as high as they used to. Peugeot is one of the smaller European manufacturers, and under very heavy pressure from people like Volkswagen, Audi, which is massive conglomerate, Renault, and of course Fiat, which is now taking on Chrysler, for good or bad. But anyway, the Peugeot family, I think, sort of, there are rumors that they might get bought out by somebody, you know, consolidate the industry even more.
Well, you know, it's amazing. It's easy to say that Bentley back in the day when Wolf Bernardo came out and won the race in his first and only 3 attempts. But nowadays, when you're battling the likes of the big Japanese automakers and the Audis of the world, it really takes a program to come out and run in a high-tech series like this, put the program together and come out and win. We watched the new Bentley, if you will, using an Audi motor. It took them 3 years of coming here, learning. Even with the strength of Audi behind them, it took them 3 years to win. And now Peugeot coming out against the might of Audi, who have dominated the decade here at Le Mans. It has taken them 3 years, but they have come good, and they will win Le Mans.
And let me tell you a wonderful story about sportsmanship involving Peugeot. Last year, they knew that they could have won this race, but they didn't. That's the simple fact. Audi did. We were all invited to the Audi hospitality tent over by the Porsche Curbs. Well, it's a massive, it's like the Taj Mahal. And we went there. It was a wonderful festive night of partying. Guess who showed up? 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. All of the Peugeot team, the mechanics, the engineers, the management turned up. Every single time a Peugeot driver or mechanic or engineer came into that Audi hospitality area, they received a standing ovation. And by night's end, the Audi mechanics had swapped shirts with these Peugeot guys and vice versa. They fought so hard for 24 hours, but at the end of the day, they were able to share a drink, share a laugh, and it was sportsmanship to the nth degree.
Well, that's it. It is a sport, isn't it? I remember David and I calling the Brazilian Grand Prix to end the Formula One season last year when Lewis Hamilton with McLaren Mercedes and Felipe Massa with Ferrari had this titanic battle, and the championship was in one man's hands and then it was in the other man's hands. And when all was said and done and Hamilton had won by 1 point, I said, if you are measured by the people you beat en route to a championship, that was a very sweet title, and I'm sure this Le Mans victory will be sweet for Peugeot for the very same reason. The people they had to conquer to get here.
Well, there's no doubt about it that last year Peugeot made a mistake with that tyre issue towards the end of the race when it rained, and they chose the wrong tyres. And if it hadn't been for that silly mix-up in the pit, even yesterday afternoon when the 2 cars crashed, one coming in, one going out of the pit, that number 7 car, this would be a 1-2-3 for absolute sure for Peugeot. The 7 car has been so fast ever since.
I think if you nail it down to a couple of moments in the race for the other 2 cars, one was certainly the incident for the 7 car in pit lane, and then that drive shaft issue on the number 8 car that cost them 9 minutes. Otherwise, this could have been a real ding-dong battle between all 3 of those cars.
Absolutely, which of course might have led to not finishing. And of course, obviously, this team here, the Audi team, had that very early incident when Alexander Premat crashed down at Indianapolis, which I think probably set the seal on that car, probably set the rot in, which is why it's so many laps down. And of course, Lucas Luhr making a very un-Lucas Luhr type mistake going into the Porsche curves, assuming he did make the mistake. But whatever it is, really down to one effective car, the #1 car of Christensen and McNish.
It is a sport, and sport is a human endeavor.
Talk about endeavor, the two Collis cars, the number 14 car has only seen 2 drivers behind the wheel for these 24 hours. And we talk about, Dorsey, you know, the physical and the mental toughness you need now to drive these cars. So much tougher than the older days where the cars didn't have the G-forces involved. And that's a tremendous achievement by Lauderer and Zalzman.
Yeah, independent team with rookie drivers to be able to do that with 2 drivers, keep a brand new car like that, the complexity of the car itself, and keep it running and keep it going is a huge feat. Not to say they didn't have some trials and tribulations along the way. They certainly did. But
the 24 hours of Le Mans is not an undertaking for the faint of heart or wallet, or those lacking in skill and determination.
I wonder what Sebastian Bourdais is thinking right now. I mean, he hasn't had the best of luck in Formula One or made the most of the opportunity, whichever way you want to look at it. I believe he's a tremendous talent. Watching him win races in Champ Car, you know, winning 4 championships there is just unbelievable, and certainly on top of his game. Had the confidence then, and now he comes here and certainly the fastest car this year and just narrowly missing out. That's got to be pretty tough to take right now.
Yeah, I mean, if it hadn't been for that suspension change, whatever it was, I'm thinking for sure that Sebastian's car would have won the race. But it's a cruel sport. As Bob said, it is a sport, but it's a very cruel sport.
Well, you never can pick a winner at this thing. I mean, there's favorites. Yeah, there's no question about favoritism, but this is a tough one. There's just no way you can write a script for it.
Well, following up on Lee's story of last year, I certainly hope the Audi boys all show up and allow Peugeot to buy them a round.
I'm sure they will.
Or 2.
I'm sure they will.
You know, when you're as good a team as Audi is and you do get beat, you know, there's a huge amount of admiration because you know where you've been to get where you've got. You can only admire the people who beat you for being as good as they are.
Well, I don't think when Audi appeared with the R8, you know, back there at the beginning of the millennium, I don't think anybody would have thought for a minute they were going to win the next 8 races in a row, including and a +1 with the Bentley.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, some years they really didn't have the fastest car. I mean, they needed the perfect race, the perfect execution to bring it home. But that was the strength of the team. They built great race cars, they were durable, and they executed their game plans to perfection.
Just think about the wonderful races that we've witnessed here on Speed over the past decade. It was back 10 years ago, 1999, that those Mercedes flew. Unbelief, disbelief. It was just incredible. And then the introduction of the first phase of Audi when BMW were victorious in that same year of 1999. The last Frenchman to win was that same year, Yannick Dalmas. It's not to be for a Frenchman this year. And then the incredible run of Audi with the R8s and the R10s. And even in the back of that Bentley, it was effectively an Audi engine when that coupe won with Guy Smith, Tom Christensen and Dindo Capello.
Well, they're going to time this thing out because 3:48 on the board. Their last lap was a 3:38, so they'll just try and ease back a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit.
All right, monsieur, lentement, lentement, slow down, make sure this is the last lap.
And then,
as you can see in the back there, a pretty large crowd on it.
Yeah, it's rather than mayhem.
No doubt the radio waves have been bashing since early morning, you know, persuading people to go out and watch the finish.
It's going to go crazy down there.
It will.
We asked Sebastian Bourdais earlier this year at Sebring about how passionate the French were about racing. Were they supporting him in his F1 endeavors? And how about the Peugeot program? And he said, well, like most countries, the French population question the automotive manufacturers. What are they doing? They're looking at that balance sheet. They don't want to see their automotive manufacturers doing well. Can you think about the boost in morale and the nationalistic pride that this will create, and that sense of accomplishment and the boost of national morale.
And that's a good thing.
Kind of like when the English win at cricket, Cal.
A bit like that.
You mean pretty rare.
What about David Brabham's run here for the last 3 years to go unbeaten? 3 consecutive 24-hour races, that's remarkable.
I still can't get over the irony of his brother being the winner of the last Peugeot 16 years ago, and here he comes up and wins the next time out. It's almost uncanny.
Yeah, it's nice to hear, Brabs. I hadn't heard Jeff in a long time.
Forget Reinhold Jost. You want to win the 24 Hours Le Mans? Find an Australian.
Right.
And spare a thought for these drivers and all that they contributed to it. There's a lot of nonsense kicked around in the media and sports talk radio and so forth about whether auto racing is an athletic endeavor, whether it's a sport. I can remember being here when Mazda won and Johnny Herbert did a triple stint to end the day and had to be lifted out of the car, so completely exhausted by the effort. We talk about the temperatures and the speeds and the G loads and so forth, and the workouts these guys do to be as fit as they can possibly be for this specific exercise, making split-second decisions, sometimes life or death decisions in a tiny fraction of a second. This is about as athletic as it gets.
It's a very athletic sport in these modern cars. There you see the Rolex timepiece at the top there, just coming up to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday.
And spare a thought for the boys who parked that Porsche there about 20 hours ago, loaded up the truck, and then had to wait to get the car back.
I think it's abandoned. I'm not even sure.
I think it gone home, Bob. They just left it there. That, of course, used to be the old signalling pit on the right there. That's where all the signals came from because it was the slowest point of the track.
Well, we've waited a long, long time to get the answer to the question. Can Audi be beaten? The answer is yes. There was a single focus for Peugeot. It wasn't about winning the Le Mans series. It wasn't about winning Sebring or coming to do Petit Le Mans or anything like that. It was one single goal, and it was to win this event.
Now this is where the dance card gets very tricky. You want to be very careful in these contrived finishes that you don't all end up in a ball of fiberglass and rubber dust. You will just
don't say it.
Jig when you should be jogging.
How many times down through the years have we seen this scene coming off these very corners, welcoming home a new champion in a Bentley or a Ford GT40 or a Jaguar? You name it.
It doesn't seem 5 minutes ago since I was doing this last lap with the Fitzpatrick car when we came third. And same sort of thing, exact same sort of day too. Hot, sunny day, huge crowd.
The French have a gift for this sort of thing, like the Tour de France ending on the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
Now those guys behind are going to pick up speed here because they want to make sure they get in the back of the photograph as they cross the line.
And you have to give the team credit. Often they've been accused of manipulating things. If they wanted to manipulate it, they would have put the 8 car out in front with the all-French driver lineup. They did not do that. From very early on, as Frank Montagny told us, this has already been set. The 9 will drive to the checkered flag.
Team director Olivier Canel said the team invested enormous effort and dedication in the off-season, and they had one goal, and that was to win Le Mans. He said, we need no more reminders. They knew the task ahead.
16 years, the wait. For some, that would feel like a lifetime. And what a special scene this is. Not only if you're French, but for sports car fans. And spare a thought for the Brabham family and Sir Jack Brabham. He's not in well health. He's not in good health. And his 2 sons have won this French classic. For Wirtz, it's his second. For Genet, it's his first. And he will get to see the checkered flag. The Lion has roared here in France. Peugeot win at home. The French classic is theirs, finally, after 16 years. That's what this record crowd has come to see. Wirtz, Genet and Brabham victorious at Le Saff. Justin.
Danny keeps asking him on the radio.
David, jump up and down. It was spectacular. Absolutely fantastic. The team completely rallying around. You couldn't ask for more from this. Absolutely brilliant. David's obviously been grabbed by the Eurosport guys, and we'll just get in there in a second. It's just fantastic. You know, when you see you can see it's like pent-up passion from these guys. It's taken 2 long years to get here, and disappointments. DB, brilliant, fantastic.
Oh, mate, what unbelievable. I know there's a lot of fans out there, and my team, Highcroft Racing, Acura, and all those guys, they were so supportive of me coming here to do this race. A big thank you to you guys, and it's just stand here and talk to you, having just won this race, pretty amazing feeling.
I mean, I remember 2 years ago when we made eye contact and you're up on the podium, and
yeah.
That was GT1, you know, GT1, amazing.
Yeah,
to do this, you're riding a wave, mate. That where does it end?
Well, you know, I mean, you can't do this unless you've got great people and a great car, and Peugeot definitely gave us that. That's for sure. We had a faultless race, absolutely faultless race, and you know, all the guys should be congratulated for an amazing effort.
And could you feel the energy of this whole team coming together near the end there? I mean, there's a lot of. It was a long road in coming, wasn't it?
It was. You know, I mean, obviously, it was very important for them to win this race after the last 2 years. And they were ready to win. I really felt they were ready to win. They did a great job.
Do you want to just say hi quickly? He's off. That's what he needs to do. Brilliant job.
He has a lot of people to meet, and there's Dan Binks, who finally gets his Le Mans 24-hour victory. Brian Till.
Danny Binks, I talked to everybody. I waited for you because you're the one that didn't collect one yet. It wasn't there. You just watched your man come across the line. Tell me about it, brother.
It's amazing. I've been coming here. This is my 8th time. I haven't won one. It's amazing.
With all the victories that you have, the championships, Sebring, Petit Le Mans, the championships, the driver championships, to now collect this one. Can you even put it into words?
No. I won 15 championships, and this is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's amazing.
Congratulations, buddy. You deserve it.
You damn betcha. And here come the Audis. Proud warriors to the end. Justin Bell is standing by with Pedro Lamy from the Peugeot team. What a day he's had.
Pedro, fantastic. I mean, you still must be very proud for the result you got. I mean, it's a tough race, but the team won.
Yeah, the team won. I mean, it's a work of 3 years, and finally won. It's a shame that it's not my car, of course. I would like to win, but the team deserves that because they did a great job, a great guy, and I'm really happy.
You're probably the most famous Portuguese guy in the whole of France today, so well done, Pedro. Brilliant. Take care, man. Spectacular.
Congratulations indeed to all of the Peugeot drivers, engineers, mechanics, and staff on a wonderful achievement. There's Tom Christensen. There will not be a 9th overall victory, not this year. Let's go to Chris Neville with Mika Salo, winner in the GT2 category.
We had a really deep GT2 field, and Ferrari was loaded for bear this year. They get the victory. Pierre, this is only your 3rd start, but you come away with a win.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just have to say thank you to Ferrari and to Risi Competizione and my teammates. We all did a great job, and especially this year, I mean, the race was a sprint race, and it was so hard than never before, and I'm just glad that we did it.
Mika, you had 110 starts in Formula One, some of those for Ferrari. Now you've given them 2 back-to-back victories at Le Mans. What does that mean?
Oh, it's great. It's winning it back-to-back. It's just great, and everything went well. Nobody made a mistake. Car worked well. Got a perfect tires from Michelin. It's just a great feeling. Great feeling. I can't wait to get up on the podium. And
this was an important year for Ferrari. This is an anniversary of their 60th win. Luca Del Montezemolo was here. how great is it to be the guys who get to hand the trophy over to him?
We're not going to give it to him. It's good. It's good. All the big bosses were here, and it's important, especially what's going on in Formula One also. So Ferrari can do something else also than Formula One. So very good.
Good job, guys. Good job.
We worked too hard for it. We're not going to give it to him. Well done indeed. And now the party will begin in earnest. And as I said earlier, if you've never seen the Le Mans celebration, you have something very, very cool coming up. The crowd beginning to gather below the podium, above the pit lane. We'll be back to Le Mans. You don't come and race the 24 hours of Le Mans for money. It costs 38,000 euros to enter a car, and the winner takes home a check for 40,000 euros. And that doesn't include beer and tips. This is why you do it, to stand on this podium. David, you've been up there.
I have indeed, and it's an unbelievable feeling. There's no doubt about it. A huge crowd assembles. Sebastian Bourdais pretending to look unaffected as he kisses that gorgeous-looking girl there, who is obviously the Miss Podium specialist. There is something special about Le Mans. These drivers have all been saying it. As we saw Dan Binks, he's won 15 championships, but he's never cried before, and it does that to you. It's just something about this race. There are other 24-hour races, but there's only one Le Mans.
Man, I don't see up there right now is TK, the man. Tom Christensen, his two teammates are over there on the third step of the podium, and TK hasn't made an appearance yet. McNish and Brabham are just huge mates, so this will be a special moment for both of those guys.
Well, maybe TK doesn't appear on the podium if he doesn't win.
Well, he now has a 2/3 to go with his 8 wins. Time for the anthems. As you saw, Mr. Le Mans, Tom Christensen, made a belated appearance on the podium, but he was there with handshakes for all of his successful rivals. Quite a moment. I think it was Sebastian Bourdais we saw carving croissants down there on the start-finish straightaway. I didn't know you could do that with one of these cars.
Okay, he had much trouble doing it either.
With 1,100 pounds-feet of torque, I expect it's pretty easy.
I would imagine
actually.
with a diesel, yeah, that's not a problem.
There's Thomas arriving belatedly.
And he'll take this well. He realizes he's been very much a lucky man to have so much success there, and he realized they didn't have the fastest car here today, and all credit to Peugeot, just perfect race.
They're handing out the Rolex watches. Yannick Dalmas, who won this race 4 times before Rolex got involved, said he wants to come out of retirement because he wants a Rolex.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pathetic.
Third place trophy for Audi. They've been proud winners, and I'm sure they will be proud as second runner-ups or runners-up or both
or whatever. They're definitely going to be proud. The old silverware or the goldware being handed out there, those are the sort of trophies you want to put on your mantelpiece. That's a trophy that Mika Salo is not going to give to the management.
I love Mika. He always tells you where it's at.
Not getting that back.
The great Bob Wallach won class titles at Le Mans, but being a Frenchman, of course, the only one that mattered to Bob was the overall.
And he never won it.
No, he would be congratulated on winning yet another class, GT or whatever, and he would say, but it's only a class title. It's not the overall.
Exactly. That's the way I feel about it.
And there's the one that matters. The overall.
Biggie.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I still just find it absolutely fascinating that the last time Peugeot won was 16 years ago, and driving it was Jeff Brabham, and here we are the next time they win the race. After 3 tries, the winning driver is David Brabham.
As Justin said, he's just riding that wave right now. 2 GT1 victories in the last 3 years, and then gets a big one today, and so much success over in the American Le Mans Series with his team Highcroft Racing and Acura. Just think of the politics there. He's the Acura factory guy, and then
they let him go and drive a Peugeot.
Well, you know, Acura did the same with Simon Pagenaud, who went to, was it Spa, where he took a Peugeot, put it on pole, and won the race.
There's a tradition that Dan Gurney won. That started in 1967 when he won this race for Ford.
I can't think of another second-generation winner. And more to your point, David, we now have 2 second-generation winners in the same family.
Quite extraordinary. And Jeff said, when we were talking to him before, that his son is now racing. So possibly when Peugeot win again in another 15 years, there'll be another Brabham driving it. Well, it will definitely be. They'll put him in it to make sure they do win.
They'll have no shortage of candidates, you can be sure. Proud moment for France and for auto racing. The 77th Rolex, 24 Hours of Le Mans is now in the books. We'll be back. Back live at Le Mans. It's estimated roughly 250,000 fans turn up every year for the 24 hours. And a big chunk of that group is now down there in the pit lane and start finish area to salute the winners. Alan McNish addressing the crowd. There are the 3 winning drivers in the overall, Wirtz, Brabham, and Genet. Let's check the results in the overall and the LMP1 category. Brabham, Genet, and Wirtz for Peugeot, followed by teammates Sébastien Bourdais, Franck Montagny, and Stéphane Sarrazin, making all of France proud. And then the first of the Audis for Capello, Christensen, and McNish. And the Aston Martin Lolas, who had such a star-crossed race 24 hours ago, put a car up there in 4th place. And the Oreca car, another tale of travail, reaches the top 5. In P2, David?
Well, there you see the Porsche of Collard, Elgard, and Poulsen that was led all the way. It was on the pole and led from start to finish. The car that was second crashed out only about an hour ago. And there you see the 33 car finished in the 2nd spot there with Johnny Kane, Lubenberg, and Pompidou. And Heinz Nicolay and Yvon finished 3rd in the Pescarola Mazda. And the Zytek down there in 4th. And the Porsche RS Spider down there in 5th spot.
And make note, back-to-back winners in GT2 hailing from Houston, Texas. Risi Competizione. Let's meet the man behind the team. Giuseppe Risi is with Chris Neville.
Well, I found Giuseppe Risi, and Giuseppe, you and I spoke last year. We spoke about winning races, winning big races like Sebring, Petit Le Mans, winning championships, and you said you'd give it all up for another win at Le Mans. You got it.
Absolutely. Not only that, but this is a maximum record of 10 Ferraris here. 2 were ours. And we placed 1st and 3rd, so I really couldn't be any happier. You know, we set the pace, and we set a hot pace with the idea of the others trying to chase us, and that's exactly what we're able to achieve.
Such an important year for Ferrari. The president here, the 60th anniversary. How does it feel to be the team that gets to hand the trophy over?
It's very special, but I cover these things, and I won't realize it until I get home and pinch myself. But I've been involved with Ferrari for 35 years, and this is a very, very special moment, especially a circuit like this here. And as you can see, the amount of destruction today was unbelievable from the best teams in the business. So it's very special to be at the end, you know.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See, as you can hear, Giuseppe Risi obviously comes from Texas. But I drove for old Giuseppe Risi when they ran a car called the Grid, which was Giuseppe Risi, Ian Dawson combination, based in Leamington Spa in England.
They was right about everything but one thing. They're not getting the trophy.
You notice people are pretty tight with those trophies.
Yes,
I'm not giving it to anybody. What are you talking about?
Giuseppe Risi, a very good organizer, obviously a very strong Ferrari dealer, and as you can sound, very accomplished and a very polished gent. Alexander Wirtz, who won his first ever race when he was the youngest driver still to win it at 22.
This has to be cool for him. Really a tester in Formula One now, certainly been on the Peugeot squad, but to get your second Le Mans, which is, you know, he's still a relatively young guy, but almost the twilight of his career. You wonder where he was going, and now he wins another big one.
Is he still the youngest ever winner of Le Mans? He won it when he was about 20 years old, I think, did he not?
Yes.
And as the celebrations continue, everybody getting their money's worth down there. Standing in the tire tracks of the greats. You must go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans if you are a race fan. We'll take a break and return shortly.
Speed's coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Valvoline. Only Valvoline guarantees your engine for up to 300,000 miles. Register at Valvoline.com.
Back at Le Mans, time for the GT1 podium and the Star Spangled Banner. And there's Dan Binks. Doug Feehan made sure that Dan got the chance to stand up there on the podium as he was crew chief for the winning GT1 car. And there are the results. The class: Antonio Garcia, Jan Magnussen, and Johnny O'Connell bring it home as Corvettes sweep the top 2 and 3 of the top 4 positions in GT1.
And the 4th win for O'Connell here at Le Mans too.
And that is Corvette's sayonara as a factory team. How about GT2, David?
Well, there you see it. The car of Giuseppe Risi is there. The Competizione Risi, Caffa, Merlo, and Salo win there again. Second year in a row for them. Then Babini, Malucci, and Ruberi, and another F340, 430. So look at that. Ferrari sweeping the board there until 5th spot.
Well, Alan McNish with Audi has been a big part of our broadcast for the last 24 hours. It's only appropriate we should hear from him. Standing by with Justin Bell.
So Alan, don't tell me it's my fault.
It is, it's your fault, because if you had interviewed me in the grid, it had all been okay. But actually, I want you to look around here. See that guy there? He is now the 2009 Le Mans winner.
That's so beautiful. These guys are great mates, and I mean, it's so nice to see. We all started. You guys went on to amazing careers, and here we all are again.
It was 1988 when we all kicked off in Vauxhall Lotus in the UK, and I've got to say that it is, even although we obviously come here to win as Audi Sport, and we've got such a tremendous history at this event, when you stand up on the podium, I think you have done a very good job anyway. And when you're beaten by such competition as Peugeot, and also with Alex, Mark, and obviously Brabs, then I don't think you can be embarrassed at all.
That's very gracious, Alan. Brilliant. Thank you.
That's right. Alan is a sportsman. Time for final thoughts here at the end of the 2024 Hours of Le Mans. Let's start with Brian Till and Chris Neville.
I'm tired. That's my first final thought. No, GT1, it's all about history here at Le Mans. We've seen GT1 perhaps go away, but that doesn't mean that the GT class won't be strong for years to come. The rules will change. GT's still going to be around. It's going to be awesome, Chris.
Well, I think the LMP1 class was deeper and better than we've ever seen. We've got a record crowd here. They really responded to it. I think in the past, the diesels kind of looked at the gas cars and laughed at them. This year, the adjustments really brought them back into the picture. Hopefully next year, a couple more adjustments, and we're going to see a great diesel and gasoline battle. Justin?
Well, this says it all, doesn't it? We're looking at that gorgeous Peugeot sitting here in the winners area. They came of age today. They beat all their nationalistic expectations and outdid themselves. Spectacular. And maybe this is the start of a new era of sports cars. Brilliant.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. Lee Diffie, any breath left?
Just a little bit. Absolutely enjoyable. Very pleased for Peugeot, super pleased for David Brabham.
Dorsey Schrader.
Can't believe the enormous pace that Peugeot set here. They would have shattered the all-time record here had not been those 2 one-hour caution periods. They still beat last year.
Calvin Fish.
Well, I think the key is, Dorsey, this year they executed. They've had the speed the last 2 years. They didn't get the job done. This year they made it happen.
David Hobbs.
Well, I thought it was an absolutely excellent race. There were 2 or 3 very nasty-looking incidents. Luckily, nobody got severely hurt. And a very clean race, and the rain stayed good, and all in all, it was a great day for racing, I felt, and a great day for France.
And I'll wrap things up by saying what I said at the very beginning of the program 24 hours ago. It is the greatest motorsport event in the world, and we here at Speed are proud to say we have a new contract to broadcast Le Mans for the next 3 years. Be sure to check out Speed Report at 7 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday night for more from Le Mans, and SpeedTV.com will have more as well. For our entire crew, thanks for watching Le Mans on Speed. So long, everyone.